Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, May 9th. We got through the week, folks. It is Friday. Time is going by very quickly. This week felt like it went very quickly. And we are already into, we're done with the first week of May, so we got 3 more weeks left. And it is kind of crazy because after these 3 weeks, we are officially into June. So good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It's been a wild week. It's been a wild week. We had Palantir earnings on Monday. We had a bunch of other earnings throughout the week. We had the beginning of what seems like hopefully a start to negotiations with China, with Besant probably on a private jet right now, going to Switzerland. We had the first trade deal announced yesterday with the UK. We have Bitcoin back above 100,000. Right now it's at 103, which is just incredible. And we had the markets that pumped this week. I mean, it wasn't as crazy as the previous 9 days to end out April in terms of green, but it's still pretty damn green. Robinhood, $55 in the pre-markets, Palantir, 119, Bitcoin, 103, Tesla, 283. Even Amazon and Google have had a pretty crappy week, are a little bit green right now. So it's been an overall not bad week. It's been a very volatile week, but a lot of that volatility has benefited us to the upside. Oh, and then we had HIMS, which had a bit of a squeeze as well. So not too bad. Not too bad. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is Friday. Let's do this because we haven't done this in a while. Where are you watching from? Where are you watching from? Put it in the chat. What country, what city, what town? I'm probably going to get some North Koreas here because North Korea allows all the internet. You guys love saying you're from North Korea. But put in the chat where you're watching from. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Happy Friday again. Dude, it really felt like a quick week, but we are here at the end of the week, and now we're done. Now we are done with, I would say, one of the craziest weeks of May just because we got that trade deal done, but or one of the craziest weeks of 2025. But we are here, and we are ending out another week in the equity markets. All right, here we go. What do we got? Faris from AK Media headquarters. This AK Media thing is insane. Dude, even on the daily recap yesterday, there's AK Media comments. Like, I wonder when you guys will get tired of it. I really do. And I don't think it's happening anytime soon. So I guess we're gonna have to live with this AK Media thing. Johnny from Connect, Washington. I love it. Lenny from Boston. The Boston meetup is happening in May 24th. I'm gonna put the link in probably like 30 minutes in the chat. So just watch out for that if you're from Boston. I'm gonna put the link for the meetup there and you guys can sign up and we will get the process started for the Boston meetup. We got Derek from Orange County, California. I love it. We got Latha from Singapore, Steven from Austin, Axel Hyamet watching from Norway, Andre from Nashville, Tennessee. I love it. Michelle from Florida, Nirajan from the state that I'm going to be going to, but we'll call it Boston instead of the state, but Massachusetts. I love it. Thank you for being here. Darren from Sweden, Peter from Denmark, Style from Las Vegas. We got a lot of New Yorks in the chat. We got a lot of Belgiums in the chat, Wisconsin's, Philadelphia, Germany, Toronto. I was just there at Toronto. I love Toronto. Can't wait to get back to Toronto. Montreal. We got some Indias in the chat. I love it. You know, my grandparents are coming from India. They're coming from India at the end of May until the end of July. So they're going to be at home with us for about 2 months. They haven't been to the United States since 2018. So very happy that they'll be here over the summer. And we'll get to spend some time with them. Steven with New York, Peter from Miami Beach, Heeman from the Netherlands. We got Chile, we got Sydney, we got Idaho, we got H-Town, we got Boston, New York, Virginia, Detroit, Michigan, Toronto. Dude, this is just so cool seeing people from everywhere across the world. It's just so freaking cool. It is so freaking. You got to record them trying FSD. Oh, I'm definitely going to have my grandma with me doing FSD. She's going to go crazy. She's not going to understand it, but it's going to be so much fun. That's a great idea. Definitely got to do that. We got Chicago with Joe, Kazakhstan. You know, a lot of the Kazakhstans, Uzbekistans, etc. A lot of them have it's in East Asia, not South Asia. And a lot of them have a big Asian population that's also Muslim. I was watching this Instagram yesterday of a guy who's from Kazakhstan, ironically, and he's Muslim, but he's also Asian. And a lot of people don't know that a lot of Asians are in that part of the world because it's still part of Asia. It's just not like the Chinas and Vietnams and Thailands, except not the southeast part of Asia. And a lot of them are Muslim. So that is definitely a big population of Asians that are also Muslim as well. Atlanta, Sweden, Chicago, Louisiana, California. We got everybody from every part of the world. It's so cool, dude. So cool to see. We got Theo from Germany. We got someone from Niagara Falls on the Canada side. I got to see that when I went there. That was awesome. Fort Lauderdale, Philly, Austin, Portugal, Jersey, Salt Lake City. I've been to Utah a couple times. Got to go back there again. Virginia, Germany. Got a lot of Germanys in the chat. Hopefully we get to visit that soon. Minnesota, Charlotte. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been a big week. Had the Bloomberg interview this week. Had Palantir earnings. It was just a wild week in my life personally. Signed my first lease on the apartment. Got that out of the way. So, that was one thing that was giving me a lot of anxiety. I'm not going to lie. Like, for the first 5 months, I was like, I know I have to move out. I know I have to, start this part of my life, but I just could not find the place. And so once I found it, which was, I think, on Thursday last week, signed it yesterday. It's done. So that was one big part of life that was genuinely keeping me up at night and making me nervous. And officially we got that done. So very, very excited for that. All right, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got Kevin Hassett, White House Economic Council advisor on CNBC. Let's see what he has to say about this UK deal. Then we got a lot of headlines to get through. We'll talk about Bitcoin, Robinhood, etc., and we'll keep going from there. But let's see what he has to say, and then we will keep going from there.
Go look at the press release that the beef producers put out as soon as the deal was signed. We know that it's been a tough time for farmers in the U.S., and a big reason is that they've been treated so poorly by our trading partners. And getting the U.K., which has been a country that's been pretty reluctant to let our beef and other products in, come to the table and open up their markets to U.S. farmers is a big, big win.
We did hear, though, from the policymaking group for the United States automakers that they were disappointed by this news. To hear that UK autos that are made in the UK and maybe have zero parts that are made in the United States can come in and get a better deal than those that are compliant with USMCA and maybe contain half of their parts from US autos having a much higher tariff rate. How do you address that?
Well, there's a 100% way to address any divergence in these things, and that's to make sure that the parts are more made in the U.S. And so onshoring of production has been a key objective of President Trump's. If you look at the jobs data and the capital spending data in the first quarter, where we saw a 20% boom in equipment investment, you can see that it's working. But yes, there's going to be some adjustment. That's the purpose of the policy.
No, but the cars that are made in the UK can come in without any parts made in the country with a lower tariff.
That would be a bigger concern on an economic front if there weren't a cap on how many cars were coming in. So it's just capped at about what was coming in before, so that U.S. producers don't have to worry that they're suddenly going to lose their market compared to what's been happening in the past.
What impact will this have on the greater U.S. economy to have a trade deal like this in place?
I think it's going to be enormous positive because now people see what the next deals are going to look like. And, congrats to Secretary Lutnick and Jameson Greer, who are leading this effort. And I can tell you that I've been briefed on about 24 other deals that are this close to being resolved. And what that's going to do is it's going to be very settling for markets because they're going to understand.
Dude, 24 other deals that are that close to being announced. By the way, Trump just tweeted, he said many trade deals in the hopper, all good, great ones. He tweeted 10 minutes ago. Tweeted this 10 minutes ago. He had a couple other tweets this morning that we'll talk about. But I mean, I don't know, man. You got 20 deals in the pipeline. If they're as good as the UK one, especially India, Japan, South Korea, some larger trading partners, I think markets are going to love it.
And what the rules are. They're going to see that the rules advantage American producers and American workers and aren't horribly disruptive like some of the Wall Street firms have been saying they would be if you look back a month or two.
Kevin, how much money should the Treasury expect to be bringing in annually as a function of tariffs once these deals are remedied or negotiated?
The problem with that question is a really smart question. And the problem with that question is it depends on what happens with the negotiations. It depends what happens with the negotiations with the Chinese in Geneva this weekend. It's if I put a number out, then in some sense, it's upending the negotiation because we're saying, oh, well, that's what the U.S. position is. I can say that I spoke as they were getting on the plane with Jameson and Secretary Bessent last night, wishing them Godspeed. And, everything that's been going on with the meeting in Switzerland is very promising to us. We're seeing extreme respect, treating both sides with respect. We're seeing collegiality and also sketches of positive developments. And so I think that as we move forward and remove, hopefully, uncertainty on China, and get deals like the UK, then people understand what President Trump's trade policy has been all about, and then we can move on to the thing that I've been working hardest on. I was just in the Roosevelt Room with the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader and Scott this week negotiating the tax bill, which is going to be the biggest tax cut ever. So,
all right, so let's talk about the trade deal they got yesterday with the UK, and then we'll talk about that tax cut bill as well, because there's some updates on that are going to be really important. So first of all, the UK deal. I talked about this yesterday. For those that were on the live stream, you guys got to see the bill being unveiled live. I actually thought it was good. I thought the presentation of the bill was strong. I thought it was very amicable relationship. I feel that the United Kingdom and the United States meaningfully came to a real conclusion. This is the trade deal in a nutshell. The United States gets $5 billion of access to exports in the UK. We get about $6 billion in tariff revenue. UK tariffs go down from 5.1 to about 2%. US tariffs go up from 3.5 to about 10%. And you get more steel and aluminum, more ethanol, more beef, more cereals, more fruits, vegetables, machinery, chemicals, textiles, etc. We protect the auto market inside of the UK by having a 10% tariff instead of a 25% tariff. And the UK is going to be buying $10 billion worth of airplanes from Boeing. So look, it's nothing close to what we would do with India, China, or Japan. We have a surplus with the United Kingdom. So it was the easiest win that we could get. I mean, this was a layup. If we couldn't get this type of deal, I would have no faith or confidence that we could get a meaningful deal with other countries. But the point is, we got a deal. We got a deal done. And the fact that we got a deal done, and the White House also on the website put out the official like parameters of the deal. And it's like a long website you can go through of all the different like specifics that they talked about yesterday at the meeting. It seems very likely that if that ends up setting up as a foundational framework to what the deals will look like in the future with the other countries that are going to be much more complex and nuanced. Like, it's not going to be as easy as just, all right, we're going to keep the 10% tariff and you buy more, we buy more here. I think it's going to be a bit more complicated. But if it sets up the framework and we get those deals done, and if Kevin Hassett isn't lying and we do have 24 other deals like that in the pipeline, I mean, I think markets are going to like it. I mean, there is a reason we almost hit the 200-day moving average yesterday on the S&P. Right now, we're up about 0.32%. And we did hit it like very briefly. We were at 570 for a second, and then we just came right back down. If we can actually sustain above the 200-day, I think we've got some really serious momentum. Right now, there's a lot of resistance there. It's hard to maintain that. You're going to get rejected many times to get above those levels. So I think we need more catalysts, more meaningful deals, and less bad macroeconomic data that signals a recession in order to get above it. But the point is, we're way above where we were right before the Liberation Day stuff was announced. And certain stocks have done very well. I mean, Palantir is at its February highs, basically, right, at 120. Which is incredible because the market is not at all-time highs yet, right? So you've had individual stocks showing some momentum. NVIDIA is relatively flat, but NVIDIA at least is not in the low 100s anymore. And so the question simply becomes, can we get more and more deals passed to solidify the momentum that we've seen? Fear and greed is at 62. So this is a good point. I'm not saying fear and greed is like the only index you have to look at and, you use this like religiously to make your decisions. But historically, extreme fear was a time to buy. Fear was a time to buy. Now we're at greed. It's not like you have to sell everything, but if you want to take some profits, if you feel like you kind of bought the dip aggressively on a certain stock and it's moved up 30, 40%, it's not crazy to sell some aggressive covered calls or take some profits. The point is, I wonder when this gets to extreme greed, and I feel like that's when we get closer to 6,000. But the nuanced thing about this market is that I don't know if extreme greed is necessarily going to mean that we have to completely take a 20 or 30% haircut once we get to those levels, or even a 10% haircut, because we were already at all-time highs in February. We weren't really at extreme greed. I think we were at like neutral to greed. And it's just this macro volatility took us down. And so it flipped over the entire dynamics of sentiment analysis, how people thought of the markets, and then overall forward earnings expectations. Every S&P target went from basically 6,700 to 6,900. Some people had 7,000, all the way back down to maybe 6,000, 5,800, et cetera. So if we get into a bull market where deals are compounding on each other, labor market is relatively strong, inflation's coming down, and then J-Bow has the authority, at least in his mind, to give us a cut because, now the tariff deals are in place and the volatility is down, then I think there's a better shot for us to keep going higher. Having said that, yeah, when you get to greed, people tend to take some profits. And I think if you're super long and you don't care about taking profits, then it is what it is. If you're kind of actively managing the portfolio, maybe you bought the dip, maybe you have a big Robinhood position and you bought the dip at 40 and now it's at 55 and you're like, you know what? I want to trim some of the shares that I bought at 40, but the shares that I bought at 35, I'm going to keep for the next 5 years. I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world. Having said that, I mean, if Bitcoin keeps doing what it's doing, then trimming Robinhood might not be the best thing because the crypto volumes are going crazy right now. And if Bitcoin really is going to become a counter-cyclical asset, which we'll talk more about in a second, I think a lot of the proxies are going to get some benefits of it. Robinhood in particular will benefit from that as well. So it's just a question of risk tolerance and how you want to overall position the portfolio in a world in which we are going to get more in a world in which hopefully we will establish more trade deals and what that means for overall equities. Bitcoin right here, 102.9, just below 103. We'll talk a lot more about Bitcoin in a bit and see what we got going on in the world of crypto. In terms of HIMS, so HIMS is down 4.5%. They upped their convertible note offering from 470 million to 870 million. I think that's smart. Look, the stock's up a lot. A convertible note offering you want to do when you have the leverage. And as a company right now, HIMS has a lot of leverage. So yeah, I mean, I think they should do that. I don't think this one, I don't think them having a further convertible note is necessarily going to like tank their stock or anything like that. If anything, it's just something that investors are going to have to get used to because they're going to be able to use some of this money to be able to do all the things that they want to do, including growing the business, acquiring companies, et cetera, et cetera. It's a capped call that's due in 2030. Again, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. It's not one of those things where HIMS is not executing as a company and they're just diluting shareholders. That's like what the GameStops and AMCs do. That's when it's a red flag. So the stock is definitely going to react to that, which is why the stock is down 4%. But the stock's also up 115% year to date. And there's 0% interest as well, right? So I think as a HIM shareholder, you just got to be able to take it and be like, you know what? I'm up a lot. I'm up 70% this week. I probably can't be that upset that the company is raising a little bit of cash. Year to date, HIMS is up 103%. I think it's the best performing stock in the market. I mean, it's definitely up there with top 5. 103% year to date. Over the past 5 days, it's up 40%. Past month, it's up 74%. I mean, you kind of just let that happen and not bat an eye when it comes to HIMS. So that's what we got there. Okay, moving on to the tax bill from Trump. So we had some interesting tweets by Trump this morning that I thought were rather peculiar. So first of all, Besant is going to be in Switzerland this weekend, and he's going to be talking to China. Now, here's what Trump said this morning, which was kind of weird to me. And I don't know if he's doing it as like a negotiation tactic or if he actually believes in this, but Trump tweeted, 80% tariff on China seems right. It's up to Scott B. I thought this was really weird. So we have 145% tariffs right now. Trump is insinuating, hey, we should go from 145 to 80%, which is lower than 145, which is good, right? It's lower than 145, but I think 80% is still kind of ridiculous. I don't know if we're going to be able to survive with 80% tariffs. I think personally, the rate's going to come down to 35%. I think that's where it's going to settle at. Maybe Trump's just putting out this number right now to get the Chinese to like begin the process of thinking of negotiating, and so they can work their way down without having to give up too much. I really don't think the Chinese are going to easily be like, yep, you know what? Let's do 80%. I think the Chinese want to get down to something more reasonable, like 20 to 30%, both ways. So I don't know if he's putting this out in a way to, begin the negotiations and kind of, this is what Besant's number is going to start off with, but I don't think an 80% tariff on China seems right. I mean, that's like, if you're a small business, paying 80% is just as bad as paying 145%. Like it's a ridiculous number, right? So I think that number goes down to 35%, but we're going to get a lot more details from Besant in the meeting later today. Now, in terms of the tax bill, the interesting thing here, if you guys missed the news yesterday, is that Trump wants to increase the taxes on people making $2.5 million or more from 37% to 39.6%. Here's what he said today. The problem with an even tiny tax increase for the rich, which I and all others would graciously accept in order to help the lower and middle income workers, is that the radical left Democrat lunatics would go around screaming, "Read my lips," the fabled quote by George Bush, the elder that is said to have cost him the election. No, Ross Perot cost him the election. In any event, Republicans should probably not do it, but I'm okay if they do it. Okay, I don't even know what the hell he just said in this tweet, but here's what's going on. In 2017, if you were making $2.5 million or more in the United States of America, you were paying 39.6% on your taxes at the highest income bracket. That doesn't mean all 2.5 million had a 40% rate, but when you got to the highest level, after you got through all the other brackets, you were paying 39.6% on every dollar. So 40 cents on every dollar was going away. Trump took that back to 36% or 37.2%, something like that. And rich people were really happy. They were like, oh, less than, I saved 2% on big numbers. That's good. I can save a little bit of money. And that was part of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act back in 2017. Now, Trump wants to do no taxes on tip, no taxes on overtime, and he wants to pay for a lot of the corporate income taxes that we are solidifying into law So what does the White House have to do? They have to increase the loophole that they had from 37 back to 39.6. So that was confirmed yesterday by Lutnick, by Hassett, by Besant, all of them. Lutnick was on CNBC yesterday literally saying, hey, this is something we might have to do. Rich people might just have to pay a little bit more money in order to help fund the overall economy. So what Trump is saying right here is he's trying to play both sides. When he says in this last sentence, in any event, Republicans should probably not do it, but I'm okay if they do it. He's trying to say, look, I don't want to tax rich people. I know I'm kind of the anti-tax the rich guy, but also I kind of have no choice here. And we kind of got to bring back some money to the United States. If we're going to have no tax on tips, then someone has to pay for the tax, right? And at this point, it's just going to have to end up being rich people. So I think the overall tax bill will get passed, but they're going to have to increase some taxes if they decrease corporate income taxes on wealthy individuals. And that's just how it's going to go. So although Trump probably doesn't want to seem like the guy who's raising taxes, he has no choice. Like supply side economics, at some point, you know, it works to an extent, and then you need to actually get the money from people. And in this case, it's going to be some of the wealthiest people in the United States. HIMSS right here, down about 5.35%. Robin at 55.29, that's up 2.2. Palantir 119.40. You got the S&P 500 right here in the pre-markets at 0.42%. So that's what we got on the tax updates. That's what we got on the UK deal. And then hopefully this weekend, China gives us some good news. And I think we can really start to rip if China's ready to meaningfully give us some concessions and we're able to put an end to this trade war with them. But it's going to take a lot of negotiating. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but the framework for it will begin on, well, today, May 9th, with Besant in Switzerland, with China as well. What's the word on 80% tariffs on China? So we just talked about that. I don't know what the exact tariff rate is going to be. Trump tweeted today that he wants 80%. I think that's kind of ridiculous. It'll probably be closer to 30 to 40%. But at least it's not going to be 145%, which is the most important thing. Now, yesterday, we had that UK deal. One of the reasons the markets ripped yesterday as well is because if you missed it, Trump said this, which also got the markets very excited.
You better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. You know, if we get that, if you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, if it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal.
So, I mean, when the president of the United States says, hey, you better go out and buy stock now. As soon as he tweeted that, if you had options on the S&P or 0-day expiring options, I mean, things went through the roof, right? They just because, you know, last time he said it's a good time to buy, we had a 10% move intraday on the S&P. So, look, it's been a wild week. We got the UK trade deal done. We got China coming up. We got 24 deals down the pipeline. You had Trump that seemed very relaxed and excited. And he was like, yeah, it's time to buy stocks. Markets love it so far. I think we need some real deals to solidify how much the market is going to like it. But overall, not the worst thing in the world. Now, here's a clip I want to play from someone who just came back from China. I thought this was very interesting in terms of what's going on in their economy right now and why the United States might have some leverage here, at least why the vice premier from the Ministry of Finance is coming to meet Besant in Switzerland. It looks like the Chinese need to get a deal done or else their people are not going to be happy with them.
On the ground there, were you able to get a real view of what people in China think about this?
So a couple of things. First, the economy's weak. There's been deflation. Things are so cheap compared to I think all of you went to China during the heyday.
Yeah.
Difficult to get a hotel room, everything expensive. That is not the case anymore. The other thing that surprised me was not one bad word about President Trump, not from people on the street, not from people in the government. They were very quick to criticize Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. I think that's because Joe Biden's not in power anymore, so that's easy to do. But I think there was also this expectation that Joe Biden was going to be different on a China policy.
But he kept all of the tariffs in place.
Introduced export controls, right? So they're discovering that the attitude towards China is very bipartisan. But I think,
you mean from the United States having a strong kind of hawkish.
Absolutely.
There's no undercurrent of not liking Xi yet. Is there that we're hearing about?
I got no evidence of that. Nobody referenced.
I'm not blaming him for anything.
You think that they would say that to a Brookings delegation?
No, I know, but with no body language,
nothing.
Anything.
No.
And they really
This is why I don't want to go to China. Because what if I go to China and I just happen to say I don't like Xi Jinping? Like, as much as I want to see parts of China and travel and like see like, I don't want to go somewhere because I got a loud mouth. And sometimes I might say some stupid shit. And then I don't want to be stuck in a Chinese jail because I said I didn't like the president. So this is why, I don't know, dude. I've seen too many documentaries of Chinese censorship. That's why I stay away.
Your hotel room was bugged.
I worried about that, sure.
Did you bring a separate burner phone?
Of course I did. I brought separate burner phones and stuff. So by the way, I mean, it's like if you want to go on vacation, it's extremely cheap, okay? Except for the hurdle of having to replace all your technology.
It really looks bad over there, like the economy.
I mean, it's relative, right? So it was crazy and the cranes were everywhere. Things were more expensive. It was harder to get things done, harder to get into hotels and things like that. Now, you're in the beautiful hotel in Beijing and it's very quiet in the lobby, et cetera. There's just less to do there because their economic wounds, remember, are self-inflicted. They're starving the private sector, right? And as a result of starving the private sector, they do overinvestment in real estate. They subsidize exports, which is why their consumers don't have the level of consumption that we would like and would help, balance of payments in the world. So, you see all of that really play out there. Now, because of CNBC, I've traveled to most of the great autocracies in the world, and I would say it's the one that, except for North Korea, for example, that's where you're going to see the far most Gucci, Prada, et cetera. There's commerce there for sure in a way that you don't see in Tehran, that you don't see in Cuba. It's not like that. But no, there's no evidence of discontent, but I didn't expect to find any.
Okay, so the point there is that the Chinese economy, based on their reporting, is not doing that well. And the cost of goods are going down dramatically. They are seeing massive levels of deflation. And remember, the United States is the biggest consumer. We consume 5x more. We import 5x more from China than they import from us. We get their cost of labor. They get our consumer. If we're not getting their cost of labor and they're not getting our consumer anymore, it's bad for both countries, but it's really bad for the population that has an economy that is not growing right now and that has massive levels of stimulation that really just started in September of 2024. That's when Alibaba was like $50. And then China started unveiling the bazookas of different stimulus that they were putting out. And that allowed Baba to get back above 100. I think it got to like 130 at one point. But all of those stimulatory efforts were because the economy is struggling. And then if you lose your biggest consumer, that's not going to be the best thing in the world either. So from that perspective, I wanted to play that clip because I think it sets up the context for why Besant and the Chinese vice premier are meeting in Switzerland. It's like, yes, the U.S. is struggling, but these guys are also struggling too. It's not like they have all the leverage at all. And it's not like we have all the leverage, but still they want to get a deal done. They don't just want to let this happen for the next 5 years. And if both sides want to get a deal done, hopefully that means a deal will eventually get done. So that's what we got in terms of China. But yeah, guys, that's why I don't want to go to China, dude. I like it's scary to me being in a country, and maybe I've just, my recency bias from seeing the North Korea documentaries, the China documentaries. It is scary for me to be in a country and me to say something. Like I was watching a vlog of a guy in North Korea and he was allowed to vlog because he was with some American delegation, but like he was like shivering during the vlog because he was in the public area where there's the statues of the supreme leader. And you better be on your best behavior when you're in front of those statues. I mean, you got to make sure that you are being respectful. There's not an ounce of like smiling or laughing when you're looking. You got to really make sure, And so he was just like, when he was vlogging, he was just like, I got to make sure I don't say anything crazy. It's scary, dude. It's kind of scary. And so obviously if you visited China and, you don't say anything crazy, you don't say anything stupid, and you just like go with the flow, I think you'll be all right. But it's one of those things where it's just like, I don't know. I would never want that level of fear and pressure on myself. So I don't know, maybe one day we visit China, but I've always had in the back of my mind, like I've always wanted to see parts of China, but I'm just like, I'm really scared to go there. And then I'll say some dumb shit. And then boom, CEO of AK Media gets a Jack Ma treatment, and he's done. So look at iShowSpeed. Okay, but iShowSpeed, for those that don't know him, he's a big YouTuber. He has like 40 million subscribers. From my understanding, the Chinese government funded a lot of what he did, and he showed off China in a very positive way. But there was this one clip where he was apparently, I'm going to mess this rule up, but you're not allowed to eat on the subway in China. You'll like go to jail if you like eat on the subway. And he was like really tired one day on his stream, and he was about to eat, and all the Chinese people were like, no, do not eat. Do not freaking eat that thing, or else, they'll take you to jail. So it's just like, there's so many of these nuances and these laws and stuff, right? Of just like how to navigate being there without doing something ridiculous that, could get you into jail or something. It's either a bus or a subway where you're not allowed to eat. And like, it was just so funny because like all the Chinese people on that train were just like, please do not eat this right now. And he was so hungry. He was like, but I'm hungry. They're like, nope, don't open it. Don't open it right now. So the point is, there's a lot of different stuff going on in that world. I would rather go to democracies where if I say something, I'm not going to get my head cut off. But in general, that part of the world is that is the reason why the Chinese citizens can't do anything. It is the reason why Xi Jinping can do whatever the hell he wants, especially from an economic perspective. In the United States, we could vote Trump out if we really hated him. But in those parts of the world, you kind of can't do that. And as a result, you kind of just have to comply with what the dictatorship says you have to do. Some macro stuff. Bank of America Tech saw $1.2 billion of outflows. So the big guys continue to sell stocks. This is the biggest in 11 weeks. U.S. equities lost $9.3 billion with 4-week outflows, the largest since May of 2023. Again, retail seems to be buying the dip. Hedge funds are not. Cash inflows hit $51.9 billion. That's up $14.1 billion. And crypto saw the 4-week best streak in 3 months. Japan and Europe equities logged a 4th straight week of inflows. So technology stocks, the NASDAQ, you could basically say, lost about $1.2 billion from Bank of America clients. U.S. equities in general lost about $10 billion. Cash got $51 billion. Bonds got $14 billion. And then crypto saw the best 4-week streak in 3 months. What's really crazy about this is crypto, which is a super risk-on asset, is getting freaking the best 4-week streak in 3 months. Equities, which theoretically, the growth stocks, the NASDAQ, is tied to crypto. It looks like that's not happening right now. Growth is going down in terms of inflows. Crypto is going up. And then cash is going up to the point where there's about $51.9 billion that got inflows in probably money market funds for Bank of America this week. What it shows is, I think, broader institutions selling into the strength. Someone's probably buying. There's probably some institutions that are buying, but retail, I definitely think, is buying as well. And the question is going to be over the next month, do we have enough trade deals to solidify being able to trade at 22 times earnings, even with earnings growth necessarily not being at the 11-12% level that the market was looking for? Or is this an opportunity where retail should have been selling with some of the big guys and we have more pain to come? I just think qualitatively, the worst has already happened when it comes to the lack of trade deals. I think we're in a part of the cycle where Trump does not want to be blamed for a recession. Trump wants to make sure he wins the midterms. Trump doesn't want to be hated by everybody like he was in April. And if you put all that together, along with the fact that we got new trade deals down the pipeline, hopefully just as good as the UK deal, then I think we're going to be okay. But we do have some pretty evident data based on the hedge fund data we looked at, based on the Mag 7 positioning from money managers, that people are taking profits here. They are selling. And the question is just going to be, are they going to be buying back in at a higher rate? Here's another piece of macro data that I thought was pretty interesting. So U.S. buyers took out just 86,000 second home mortgages in 2024, the lowest since 2018 and down 2/3 from the pandemic boom. High cost office returns and weaker rental demand are cooling the vacation home market fast, with Florida seeing the steepest drop. So demand for second homes in the United States are now at a 6-year low. Only 86,000 second home mortgages were taken out in 2024. Again, this can be unlocked by the housing market and by us getting some rate cuts, but we don't get any rate cuts if Jay Powell doesn't feel that the volatility is going to die down in tariffs, which means we got to get deals to get the rate cuts. Like I think now the conclusion from the FOMC meeting, which I forgot to mention, we also had an FOMC meeting on Wednesday, was Jay Powell saying, Trump, get deals done and then I will cut. And I think he had this kind of harsh tone and harsh stance because he wanted to send a message to the administration, which was, I will not cut until you guys get some deals. If you get some deals, you'll have a chance to see me cut. If not, no chance. And I think Trump is taking that message seriously, which is why he even said literally yesterday, I don't care who calls first. Let's get a deal done with China. Like the fact that he said that, again, he does not, Trump is not the type of guy to say that the U.S. is calling first and give up kind of the U.S.'s leverage. And, he has a big ego. But yesterday he said, it doesn't matter who calls first. Let's just get a deal done. I think even Trump's getting to the point where he's tired and he wants this deal to officially happen. And so hopefully that ends up playing out. So that's what we've got there. Let me know in the chat if you own 2 homes. I mean, it is kind of a privilege in this country to own multiple homes, multiple mortgages. I would imagine the majority of Americans don't do that. Maybe some people have an investment property, other people have a home, but like if you have a vacation home, like I know Matt Money has it. He always he always jokes that he's poor, but Matt Money, that man has a beach house. I think it's in Jersey. I think he rents it out for Airbnb. So Matt Money is up there as one of those Americans that owns multiple homes. Dude, there's a bunch of you guys saying you have multiple homes. Holy crap. Christian has 2 homes. Jasmine's trying to get her first one. Framing has 5 in California. BLP has 4 homes. William has 3. TKY has 2. Chris had 2, but then he sold his New York condo a year ago. Okay, Nate has 55. I don't know if you actually have 55, but if you do have 55, congrats. Dude, you guys have a bunch of homes. Goodness. All right. We got some real estate property folks here. Again, I just never got deep into real estate. You know, it's kind of the opposite. I went into stocks. My dad went into more real estate. Sometimes I feel like you got to just stick with what you know. I feel like people try to, stretch themselves out and do too many things at once. And there's a lot of different ways to make money, crypto, real estate, stocks, but focusing in on one thing usually is good. And then once you have a lot of disposable income, then you can diversify the different things you're interested in, like a real estate. But for the past 5 years, I've just been heavily focused on trying to understand the markets and options and all that stuff. But for those who have real estate, I mean, look, we are not having any more land that is created on the planet. So it's one of those assets that always will be in demand. Yeah, there's a bunch of you, dude. A bunch of you got lake homes and stuff like that. All right, not bad. Not bad at all to have a couple other properties. Amit, I wonder how much of your audience is in the 7 figures plus net worth. I think there's a decent chunk of you that are up there. I wouldn't say it's the majority, because just in general, the economic statistics show that the majority of Americans, aren't worth 7 figures. But the thing about YouTube Finance, again, the only reason you're watching YouTube Finance is A, you have money. B, you are in the process of building your net worth, your assets, etc. Or C, you are interested in learning and you're a beginner on what the stock market is. And so I think from that, 3 categories, there's probably an even split between a bunch of people, probably more people that are just more interested in getting into the stock market. Then you got some people that are kind of in my stage, right? 20s, 30s, trying to figure out how we can build our nest eggs for the future. But then you do have a lot of people that have made money in their life. They have retirement assets and they're figuring out where to put the money. And, maybe they don't want to watch Bloomberg or CNBC. They want to get part of a community to figure out where that capital can be allocated. So I definitely think if you're watching YouTube Finance videos over like anything else, you either have some money or you're in the process of trying to figure out what to do with your life to get more money, which is, 0.01% of the global population that cares about that. So that's why I think these communities are special, right? Because it's not just, oh, the New York Knicks are winning. Great. We're from New York. We're happy the New York Knicks are winning. It's like, no, we're happy that Robinhood's going up because we're all making money. Like, I love sports. I love people that are happy the Knicks are up 2-0, but you don't get anything in your life just because the Knicks are winning. You get the joy of the Knicks winning, which is commendable. It matters. But like Jalen Brunson is the guy making $100 million a year, not you. So it's like, it's why, treating stocks like sports to me is so much better, because if they go up, if your stocks quote unquote win, I mean, you win as well. You make money. So I think that's what counts here. Shout out VVV. Goodness gracious. Thank you for the $500 super chat. This guy, bro. All right. So I know who this guy is. I'm not going to say who he is on stream, but he is ironically talking about people who have some money. He is, well, let's just say he's a billionaire. He has some money. Which is probably why he's doing these $500 super chats. Shout out to Triple V. He's a good guy. He has turned into a friend of mine. He is not Alex Karp. I love that he's anonymous too, so everyone gets to guess who he is. But no, this is a guy who, let's just say I know him from a friend of a friend, and we recently got in contact with each other. And he's a super cool guy. He's actually been learning how to sell covered calls. And think about this, guys. Let's say you have 100 shares of Palantir and you sell a covered call, right? And you can make like $300 a premium. Now let's assume you have 100,000 shares of Palantir. It's different levels when you start selling options on an account that is massive, right? And based on some conversations I've had with him, he's got an account that's a little bit bigger than the average person. So shout out to Triple V. Thank you for being here. It's not Vlad. It's not Vlad from Robinhood. It's not Karp. But he's a super cool guy. Sees a super cool. Dude, it can't be Vlad, dude. Vlad's a public CEO. Vlad can't be sending super chats. Like, that doesn't happen. I'm not texting with Vlad. That's not like, it doesn't work like that. You guys got to remember that Vlad is probably going to be worth like 10 or 20 billion dollars one day when Robinhood actually becomes one of the biggest financial institutions. He's not in YouTube chats sending super chats with the SEC potentially looking at like what a CEO. Like, you guys got to, like, logically that wouldn't happen. Same thing with Karp. But this is someone who is selling options on their portfolio. I think they've been watching the stream for the past couple months now, and they've been making some good money. So it's not Dan Hives, Triple V, and Dan. It's not Vivek Ramaswamy. Oh, these are going to be great guesses. These are going to be great guesses. Let's just say he wants to remain anonymous. But yeah, he's made some money in his life. So shout out to Triple V. Thank you for the $500 super chat. Appreciate you, brother. And thank you for being here. Ira, thank you for the $10. Amit, I found your channel in March of 2025 and I've been listening to you pretty much every day since. What's your take on Rocket Lab? That's a great question. We just had Rocket Lab earnings. It was kind of flat, dude. It was a quarter that was good. It was a quarter that was not exceptional, or it was a quarter that was not horrible either. They guided for revenue growth of 30 to 40%. They grew 36% this quarter, 125 million in revenue, or 132, I think. They are not profitable yet, but they are 12 cents away from being profitable. Stock's down 1.3%, basically a flat reaction. I didn't listen to the call, but Neutron is on track to still launch by, I believe, the end of 2026, early 2027. So I own Rocket Lab. I have 1,000 shares. Not deeply committed to their story, but I like Sir Peter Beck. I think he's a great founder, and so that's why I own it. But it's not like a position that's super, super heavy for me. And overall earnings were, not the worst thing in the world. So that's my take on Rocket Lab. Oh my God, dude, these guesses are crazy. Vincent Van Gogh. Goodness gracious, dude. No, he's a good guy, dude. He's a good guy, but he wants to remain anonymous. He's made some money in his life. He has his own businesses, and he's been in the stock market for a while. But what's really cool about this is that he's usually been buying options, and I've fallen in love with the concept of, hey, how can you make additional income by selling options? And I've really just gotten into the practice of learning what are the right tactics of it. And recently he started selling options, and he sold a ton of options on Palantir before earnings. A lot of gamblers bought those $140, $130 calls. All of those calls went to zero. He collected all that premium. And for the first time, he kind of realized, what does it mean like to be the casino instead of the gambler? And as a result, when you do that on a really big portfolio, you can make a lot of money. So shout out to Triple V. Thank you for being here. And every time he sends a super chat, you guys are going to go crazy. But he's a pretty awesome guy here. All right, so we've got the market open in about 1 minute. Here we go, folks. It has been an incredible week. We got trade deals. We got JPOW at the FOMC. We got Bitcoin back above 100. We do have some breaking Robinhood news that I didn't get to. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but it looks like Robinhood is trying to seriously innovate in the blockchain part of tokenizing assets. So we'll talk more about them. Some of you guys probably saw my tweet last night. I wrote up a long post of analyzing some of the Bloomberg leaks, essentially, of what they think Robinhood's going to announce at the crypto event. So we'll talk more about that. You got Bitcoin again, back above 100,000. That should be really good. And now we just got to see, it's the weekend. Do people want to hold on to their stocks? Do they want to let go of it? Do they want to make some money? Do they want to keep things going? Or do they want to take some profits going into the weekend? Tesla right here, 290 as well. So let's see how we end out the week. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Friday, May 9th, 9:30. Happy Friday. The stock market is now open. All right, there we go. Good morning. Wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Robinhood, 54.68. That opens up 1%. Got a bit of a red candle right there from the pre-markets when it was at 55, but we are above 50. Tessie, 291. Look at the green on Tesla. I don't think there's any headlines today on Tesla. I will check to see to make sure, but Tesla not doing too bad right there. 292. That's a big open on Tessie. We haven't seen 300 in about 4 months. It'll be very exciting to see if it can make its way back there. Amazon, 194. That's up 1.17%. Palantir down about 0.42% of the day, 118.64 right here on Palantir. NVIDIA, 117.55. We do have some updates on the diffusion rule, the Biden regulation that Trump is likely repealing. We're going to talk more about that and why it's very likely that that's going to get repealed probably in the coming weeks. Pinterest right here, great earnings. They're up 7%. They have the most amount of users ever now. So Pinterest showing great user growth. Grab right here at 497. Microsoft at 440. Microsoft maintaining that pump that we had this week. after Meta and Microsoft's earnings, where they showed 35% Azure growth. Roblox is up 0.82%. SMCI is up 1.68%. Reddit is up 2.53%. Eli Lilly is up 0.53%. Dell is up 1.2%. Verizon's up 0.37%. Archer is up 1%. GameStop is 0.2%. Robinhood right here, 54.66. Where is Bitcoin? Bitcoin, 103. Back to 103. Back to 103. Where is SoFi? SoFi, 1338. SoFi trying to make its way back to 14, 15. That's kind of the range that I think it wants to settle at, hopefully. Again, rate cuts are bullish for SoFi. Rate cuts probably not coming until July based on how Jay Powell talks, so we might have to wait for that catalyst. But overall, SoFi back above that $12 range. Palantir right here, 117. That's down about 1.2% currently right now. Trade Desk had a great earnings, absolutely phenomenal earnings yesterday. This stock should be up a lot there. Yeah, 17%. You know, this stock was down 60% going into the print. Any good numbers was going to give them some help, and they had some good numbers. They had some really good numbers. So you got Trade Desk right here. If you're in this one, congrats. AdTech, AppLovin also had a great earnings, so kind of in the same sector, that one as well, getting some momentum after it was up 15%. Now it's up about 1% on the day. Tessie, wow, 295, huh? I'm trying to see if there's any Tesla headline. I would imagine there has to be for this type of a pump. Tesla doesn't just move like this for fun. Rocket Lab's down. Rocket Lab's getting hit. So Rocket Lab going red, down 5%. Again, I didn't go through all the nitty gritty numbers, but I don't think it was some horrible quarter. I can understand if it's down 5%. I can understand if it's up 10 or up 5%. I don't think it needs to go down like 10 or 15%. Same thing. I don't think it needs to go up 10 or 15%, but might just be some people selling and taking profits and allocating that capital somewhere else. Tesla right here, 295, Robinhood 54, and then Palantir 118. I don't see the, oh, wait, nope, that's not a headline. Oh, Kathy Wood was on CNBC today. Did that do it? Kathy Wood reiterates her $2,600 Tesla price target by 2030. Maybe that'll do it. maybe that'll do 2030, 2,600. So Tesla's at 290. Let's just call it 300. That means Tesla would go up 9x, 8.4x by 2030. If Kathy Wood is right. Well, that could definitely get people excited to buy the stock. I mean, I don't think we can underestimate the Kathy pump, dude. I mean, a lot of people still listen to her, and a lot of retail gets excited when she speaks. That, I mean, that could be it. That could be causing this right here, up 4% currently right now. Where is NVIDIA? NVIDIA green, 117, Palantir 118, Hoodie trying to get back to 55. Let's look at the semis today. They're all green, even if slightly. ASML, Broadcom, Dell, TSM. TSM's up a little bit. Also, I think we got TSM sales for the month of April, if I'm not wrong today. And it looks like those sales were pretty good. Yeah, here we go. TSM sales, $11.6 billion, up 48.1% year over year. I mean, dude, again, TSM raised guidance last quarter by $3 billion. It's just really hard to be bearish in video when TSM is putting up numbers like that. So TSM right there, up 2.5%. Not bad. We had Lyft earnings yesterday. Lyft is up 17%. Wow. Not bad for Lyft. Uber, I think their free cash flow margins hit an inflection point yesterday, which is another reason why Lyft is up this much. Uber's up 2%. Uber's pumping just off the Lyft stuff. We had DraftKings and Coinbase yesterday. Coinbase right now, they are down about 1.3%. And then DraftKings, which beat on the top and bottom, they are up 2.5%. Currently right now. Where's MicroStrategy? That one should be getting some love based on Bitcoin and MicroStrategy 423. Last time this was here was at around January, so it's been a while since we got back above 400. Again, Sailor, man, when Bitcoin goes up, he looks like a genius. He buys Bitcoin no matter what the price. Bitcoin goes up. The premium to their net asset value continues to sustain itself on MSTR, and the market gives him the benefit of the doubt of being right on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin right here, 103, and MicroStrategy getting the benefit from that. Okay, Affirm is really weird to me, dude. Affirm's down 8%. They lowered guidance for Q2, but it was a very small lowering of guidance. I don't think this deserves to be down 10%. This is a great company. Max Levchin, an incredible founder. I think one of the reasons the street is upset is because they're thinking, hey, buy now, pay later is based on consumers buying now and paying later. But if consumers stop buying because they're afraid, or not only they're afraid of the economy slowing down, but if tariffs increase prices, then Affirm's business uniquely is going to be affected because you need people to be buying stuff. And if people are just like more hesitant to buy, if we have increased prices, you know, that could be a tailwind for, or a headwind for Affirm. Also, we just got an update that the latest ports that have arrived the latest ships that have arrived at ports in the United States are now being hit officially with the 145% tariff. With the 145% tariff. So ships that have arrived to ports yesterday and today, officially, they haven't got it throughout the entire month of April. Now they are officially getting 145% tariffs. And that could also be a headwind for goods and services that all of us, use. And we got to see what impact that has as well. Wow, Tesla 298. My goodness. My goodness. I really think this is because of Kathy, bro. I mean, I don't see any other headlines that would explain this. There is one headline: U.S. Foods has taken delivery of the Tesla Semi. U.S. Foods is one of the largest food distributors in America. But taking delivery of the Tesla Semi doesn't mean that they're ordering 100,000 Tesla Semis, right? So I don't know if that's the news. If it's not Kathy, what is it? If it's not Kathy, what is it? Honest right here. Wow, Honest up 17%. They had a good earnings. This look a little bit of a delayed reaction from 2 days ago on their earnings. ARM right here, they're still down 7% from yesterday, basically flat right now. Mercado Libre, that's up about 1.76%. Dutch Bros also had a good earnings. They're down about 1.4% currently right now. Again, the semis are doing their thing, but tech stocks really getting some momentum. 298 on Tessie. Let me see what the resistance is on 300. Serve Robotics as well, doing great. That stock, good earnings, a little bit of a delayed reaction because these companies reported 2 days ago, but it's kind of like the market's rewarding them right now. Even Amazon fell to freaking 180 on earnings. Now it's at 194. So Amazon not doing too bad. Let's check the Tesla resistance. SoFi right here, 1337. Robinhood right back above 55. And then Palantir, 117.48 currently right now. All right, Tesla 299 resistance is 68,000 shares. And then 300, we're looking at 290,000 shares. So we're going to need a little bit of buying to see if we can get above that. Where's some of the airlines? JetBlue is up 1.25%. JetBlue is also 20% short. JetBlue is also 20% short. So you got a lot of these names that are getting high short floats. We're going to get the updated HIM short float data on May 15th and see if the shorts are actually doubling down right here. HIM's down about 1.6%. It recovered. It was down 4%. Now it's only down 1%. So that's not too bad. United Airlines is up back at $80. Delta is 49.10. That's up 1%. And then Southwest is also up about 0.82. So JetBlue, Delta, Southwest, American Airlines, United, all up about 1% on the day. JetBlue with a 20% short. Wow, Hoodie, 55.44. Looks like she might be going for 56. Looks like she might be going. Tessie, do we have 299? Got 299, folks. We got 299. All right. So at 300, whoever has 210,000 shares, if you could buy up some of that stock, we can see 300. We can see 300. I checked the resistance levels by using Robinhood Gold. So there's a lot of websites that give you the data on Robinhood Gold. It's $5 a month. You click on a stock, you go to level 2 NASDAQ data, and you can see resistance. It's not always perfect because it doesn't take into account for dark pool and a bunch of other things, but it gives you a pretty decent understanding of where there's a lot of shares being waiting to be sold at and how much would realistically have to be overcome from buying pressure to get to the next level. So Webull offers it. There's a bunch of companies. If you just type in book order NASDAQ level 2 data on Google, then you should be able to find a bunch of websites that have that data. I just use Robinhood because it's the easiest to find it. NVIDIA right here, 117.94. Pinterest, again, great earnings. They were up 10.94%. We had SoundHound yesterday. They had earnings. They beat on EPS really nicely, missed on revenue. They're down about 1% right now. You had CleanSpark. Dude, I didn't look through CleanSpark's earnings, but a lot of people are upset. A lot of people did not like CleanSpark's earnings. They're up about 2.5% right now because Bitcoin's up, but people were pretty upset. They were just not happy with how management put out those results. So CleanSpark right here, up a little bit right now. We also had Transmedics. This is a organ transplant company. These guys are up 24%. My goodness. These guys, good quarter, double beat, raised guidance. That's why they're probably getting some of this love. Tesla right here, getting rejected at 299, now back to 297. And then the Trade Desk, great quarter as well. That one is up 24% on the day. Not bad. Not bad. Palantir is down. Palantir is down 2%. Look, again, when it comes to Palantir, if we can normalize the triple digits, I will be very happy. I don't think any shareholders can necessarily be upset at Palantir not blasting through 120. If we can hold the 100s, I would be very satisfied. I'd be very happy. So just got to see right now if the market is willing to continue giving this premium and the liquidity is there to keep Palantir elevated. Google, I was on the Dumb Money Live podcast yesterday, and let's just say Chris Camillo absolutely shitted on Google. He absolutely felt Google is dead. I don't really agree. I don't think Google's dead. But in terms of the search business, he just does not see it being the future. Google right here, 154. It was at 149 2 days ago. So if you bought that dip, at least you're up on that. But trading at 15 times earnings, I don't know. I feel like it's cheap. I feel like it's discounted. I think the market will eventually give it this momentum and bring back some of the other parts of the valuation that are being heavily discounted. But search has an issue from a headline perspective. And as of now, the market's probably not going to easily give a premium to search. I mean, the S&P 500 trades at 22 times and Google trades at 15 times, which is wild given the financials of Google. So they got $70 billion allocated for buybacks. I would imagine now's the time to start buying back a little bit of their stock. NVIDIA right here, 117, TFC 39.18, Palantir 117 as well. Microsoft 439, Grab at 495. Let's look at some of the other crypto plays right here. You've got Coinbase at 210. That's up 2%. They just acquired a company for $2.9 billion yesterday. Marathon's up about 5.4%. Hoodie 54.47, and then MicroStrategy 427, going for 430 on the day, which is not too bad. Lyft, dude, Lyft. I mean, they had a good earnings. I don't think they had a crazy good earnings, but Lyft right here, 19%. They did acquire a company the other day as well in Europe. So markets are really loving this momentum right here. Lyft is at 19% currently right now. Grindr also took it on the chin yesterday. They are down 12%. They were at all-time highs. Revenue guidance was increased. Earnings were good. Kind of don't know why the street took them down 12%, but probably because they were priced for perfection. The stock was $12 in the summer of last year, got to 24, now it's at 21. So this one getting a little hit on earnings that I thought were relatively decent. I don't know what the street's upset about, but that stock's down about 12%. In terms of Max 7, we are green for the day. Tesla, $299 again. Tesla's, I think she's going for it. Amazon trying to go for $195. Apple, green on the day at $198. Meta's at $603. Microsoft's at $438. Google, $154. NVIDIA, $117. And then Tesla, 50 cents away. 50 cents away from 300. 50 cents away from 300. Let's see, dude. That would be fun, man. Tessie back to 300 would be pretty fun. It's getting rejected every time it gets right up there, but it's so close at this point. Feels like there's some chance. If you look at the option flow on Tesla, there are a lot of people buying I think it's the 750 strike for December 2027. It's kind of ridiculous, but people are saying, you know what? Screw everything. Screw the valuation. We don't care. We think Optimus and Robotaxi will take off. And so you have a lot of flows coming for really out of the money calls years from now, just with the assumption that, hey, eventually FSD is going to be what we think it's going to be. And that'll be a catalyst for the stock. So you also have a lot of people that sold a ton of puts on Tesla. There's a lot of $300 puts that are being sold for January 2026, which means if the stock is above $300, those puts would go to zero and people would print money on those. So the option flow is not too bad currently right now on Tessie. 297. Oh, got rejected right there. All right. So it's going to be fighting to get to that $300 level. 56 resistance on Hood. Let me check. 55.51. Dude, if Hood goes back to 60, that would be incredible. We'll talk about the Hood news in a second because we did have some breaking news yesterday on Hood. 56 is 29,000 shares. That is nothing. I think that is very possible today if we keep momentum that we see 56. It's very possible. Trade Desk is up 24%. Trade Desk up 24%. QBTS right here is up a little bit. They were up 30% yesterday. But the quantum names continuing to get some momentum. Yeah, Jeremy sold Tesla, but again, dude, I don't like on those earnings, I could understand selling Tesla. Like I get it, right? So I don't blame anyone who sold Tesla right here, especially if they allocate it to a stock that they think is just better value. The only reason I disagree with Jeremy is because his cost basis was $13. So to me, I was just like, dude, your margin of safety is so strong that if Elon ends up pulling it off, like, let's say Tesla falls down 30%. Like, yeah, you would lose a bunch of money on paper, but it's not like his average is 250, 260. It's not like he just got into it. He's been there for 10 years. So for me, I would have kept a little bit of it just as like a call option if Elon ends up pulling this off, which, there is a thing that you don't bet against Elon, and he has pulled it off so far to get Tesla to this point. But I could also understand him saying, you know what, I just wanted a different position. I wanted a different allocation of capital, and that's what he did. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But the question is going to be, how long can the market say we don't care about the earnings of Tesla, like at all? We don't care about the fact that they're not growing at all, and we just care about their future growth prospects when it comes to FSD and robotics. And as of now, whether it's the market or it's retail, no one cares. No one cares that they're growing negative 9% year over year. No one cares that the auto business is growing negative 20% year over year. No one cares. Everyone just believes that the future is going to be Optimus and Robotaxi, and that's what I think people are buying the stock on. But I don't think you can blame people who sold it and moved to something else. There are different other opportunities in this market that are heavily discounted right now. Meta right here at 603, Pouncer at 117, Robin at 55.74. Robinhood's trying for 56. She is trying. Microsoft 438, and then you got Tesla right here at 298. Currently right now. Any Trump news? I don't see any Trump news. He tweeted in the morning about the tax bill, but nothing else. Oh, he just tweeted. He said MSNBC is the worst channel on television. Okay, so he tweeted that at 9:41. Their ratings are down the tubes, but that pressure on them doesn't give them the right to lie and cheat. Dude, Trump watches a lot of TV. Like a lot of TV. Like every other day, he talks about some reporter that he saw on TV. Oh, he tweeted 13 minutes ago, and he said, "Costs down, no inflation, very different from the Fed and the fake news media that we're hoping for things to be worse. Costs down, no inflation, very different from what the Fed and fake news media were hoping for." Okay, so tweeted about the media and then tweeted about inflation coming down. And then again, an hour ago, he said many trade deals are in the hopper, all good and great ones that he thinks could be on the way in terms of trade deals. Robinhood, do we get it? Do we get 56? We are 1 cent away, folks. There we go. Robinhood coming back from the depths of 30, 56 Dolores on the hood, up 3.6% on the day. There we go for Hoodie. Tesla's at 299. Tesla really wants 300. She's trying, but you got Robinhood right there, 56.08. Congrats on anyone who bought the dip. Congrats on anyone who bought the dip, especially that 46 dip. I think I bought about 70 shares that day after earnings, which was just, it was kind of ridiculous to me given the number. I didn't think it had to gap up 10%. It definitely didn't have to go down 7%. But if you took advantage of that dip, here we go. Robinhood 56.07. Now, why is this happening? Because of Bitcoin. Let's not forget, right? Bitcoin, Robinhood is high beta to Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin going above 103,000, that's going to be really good for trading volumes. If Bitcoin were to collapse, then Robinhood probably goes down from 56. However, it kind of feels like Bitcoin is becoming a counter-cyclical asset and a hedge against the broader market. It doesn't feel like retail is pumping Bitcoin. If you look at search volumes, if you look at Robinhood and Coinbase App Store downloads, I'm sure there's people using those apps to buy Bitcoin, but it is not the bulk of the volume that's getting Bitcoin above 103,000. It feels like sovereign wealth funds. It feels like institutions. It feels like money managers that simply want to go against the US dollar or go against treasury bills and say, you know what, we'd rather just buy Bitcoin. So definitely some risk on, but it doesn't feel like risk on from retail. Like we would see Robinhood and Coinbase in the top 200 in the App Store. They're not there. And the fact that those apps are not even in the top 200, top 100, top 50 means that retail is really not rushing to their phones to download an app to be able to get access to Bitcoin. It just feels like it's happening from a different level. Tesla right here, 299.50. This is the 5th attempt that Tesla's had to break through 300. Every time it got rejected right at these levels, still about 200,000 shares waiting. It really looks like it wants to break through. Psychologically would be a big deal for Tesla to get above these levels. Serve Robotics as well, up 20% on the day. So we got to see if Tesla can get there. Coinbase as well. Yeah, Coinbase. I mean, look, they had good earnings as well. Coinbase was down about 3% yesterday after hours. Coinbase now up about 3% right here at 211. Their earnings also, along with Bitcoin being up, probably not the worst thing here right now. What else do we see? Update on Rocket Lab. Again, earnings were good, not great. Rocket Lab right here. Wow, down 7%. I got to go through the numbers. I don't know why. If anyone has any theories on why Rocket Lab's getting hit this bad, let me know. I didn't see any red flags in the earnings or something. It might just be people saying, you know what, we're just going to allocate capital somewhere else. We're going to wait until these guys fully get profitable. I mean, a lot of funds can't buy Rocket Lab yet because they're not profitable. They are 12 cents away from profitability. So if they come out with an earnings soon and surprise with profitability, I think that would be big for them. But if you're buying Rocket Lab, you're not buying them because they're not profitable. You're buying them because you think they're going to be another SpaceX one day. So it's really a more long thesis that people have on this stock. Cloudflare also, yeah, speaking of software names, great earnings as well, up 8.5%. I mean, dude, a lot of the companies outside of the Bitcoin miners that we looked at yesterday, we had 15 companies. Actually, it was close to 20 companies. They all crushed. The only ones that are not growing are like Monster Energy, which is just so saturated, it's not growing that much anymore. So that stock was relatively flat. The Bitcoin miners, they missed on EPS by a lot. But outside of that, Lyft, Pinterest, Toast, DraftKings, Coinbase, Trade Desk, Serve Robotics, Dropbox, all of these big companies that have been around for the past decade, I mean, they put up some pretty good results. And many of them beat on EPS by about double digits. Oh, Tesla, there she is. There she is. 300. There she goes. We had a bunch of companies yesterday that beat on earnings, did what they had to do. Tesla did not beat on earnings 2 weeks ago, but the market does not care because it's freaking Tessie. 300, just below 300 right now. Given we cracked over that $300 wall, I think we get back there pretty easily. 299.91 right here. There she is, Tessie at 300. All right, we got to ring the bell for Tessie, Hood, all these names getting some momentum today. Wow, she's back, huh? She's back. 300. It's kind of cool, dude. It's just kind of cool to see the market basically say, we don't care. We don't care. We're buying Tesla. Now, either this is the market or either this is retail. I wouldn't doubt Tesla's retail's fan base to be able to get Tesla to get this momentum, but it's not just 300. Tesla was at 230 before earnings. So from 230 to 300, was that all retail? I mean, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical that was all retail. I think that was a little bit more than just the retail base. So got a lot of momentum right here at 300. Now, here's the real question. Who sells into the strength on Tesla? Because you got a lot of people saying these numbers are insane. It makes no sense. There's no way in hell you could justify this type of momentum on a stock like Tesla after those numbers, but it's Tesla. So either there's going to be some bag holders that just hold it down if it ends up tanking from here, or there's people that are saying, you know what, we don't care. We're going to hold this thing. And we got Robotaxi coming up. That's their catalyst. Robotaxi goes well. You start taking some market share from Uber, Waymo, etc. That's a growth story on Tessie. Also, we can't deny freaking Robinhood back to 56. Trump, the headline 2 weeks ago was that Trump is looking to get rid of some autonomous vehicle regulations that make it, in a nutshell, much more difficult for a company like Tesla to have self-driving across the United States. It's not officially repealed yet, but if it does get repealed soon, then that's another tailwind you got on Tesla as well. And then you got Optimus as a call option. I mean, I've been saying if Elon just announces one purchase order from a Walmart or an Amazon or any other big manufacturing house saying, hey, we're willing to buy 50,000 robots. They don't have to buy them. They just have to say, we are putting a purchase order for when Elon's ready to sell to us. We're ready to buy it. I think the street would be like, holy crap. This is a story we cannot ignore. Tesla has a massive purchase order. And I think if Elon puts that out one day, that could be a massive tailwind as well that really the street would not expect. Tessie right here, $300 right now. Robinhood at 56. Okay, so here's the question. Here's a question for the chat. Let's put this here, and then let's listen to Kathy and hear what she said this morning, and see if she's causing this pump as well. Does anyone think this market right now? Here's the question. Does anyone think this market right now is euphoria? Euphoria, yes or no? I probably spelled euphoria wrong when I'm typing quick. Don't make fun of how I spelled euphoria. I called it europhobia. I'm so bad at spelling it. But yeah, let me know. Is it euphoria or not? Is it euphoria or not? Tessie back at 300 right here. She is not letting go that easily on 300. Let's switch to Kathy, see what she has to say, and then we will keep going from there.
Yes, President Trump certainly has an interesting way of negotiating, and our thoughts from the beginning is what he's looking for, and what I think we learned about with India today is to reduce tax rates as much as possible around the world, high tax rates, especially on the United States, to reduce non-tariff trade barriers. And I think we're beginning to see more and more of that prove out here. This is a global tax cut. This is a good thing. So we think the headwinds associated with what seem to be chaotic decision making are beginning to clear.
And are you therefore a believer that there's a sort of a big, I mean, we've already had a rally, or I mean, off the lows. How does the rest of the year play out there for in your mind?
We'll go back to that. Let me show the part where she quickly talks about Tesla, and then we'll go back to that in a bit. But here is the part where she specifically mentions Tesla right here.
In 5 years, so 2030 again, is $2,600. And our confidence in that number has gone up now that Tesla is commercializing robotaxis in August, in June.
There you go, folks. Did that do it? Did that freaking do it? 301 on Tessie. We'll finish up with Kathy in a bit, but Tesla 301. It is not stopping. 58% of you say we are feeling some euphoria right now. 58% of you feel, so about a 60-40 split on euphoria. Dude, why else would Tesla be pumping right here? I think it's Kathy. Kathy hasn't been on CNBC in like 5 months. First time she goes on after a long time. She says Tesla to 2,600 by 2030. I mean, why else? I mean, unless this is just algos that are just having fun on a Friday. A 6% move on Tesla with no real news. This is not the UK trade deal causing this. This is, oh, dude, some of these call options must be going crazy right now. 302. 302. There you go. 301 to 302 as we're speaking about it. 303 resistance. Let me check in a second. 303 resistance doesn't look that aggressive. 20,000 shares. 20,000 shares. That is not a lot of shares, dude. It's about 303. There you go. 303. Well, dude, someone's buying heavy. Someone's buying heavy right now. And Nvidia, is Nvidia moving at all? Dude, Nvidia is barely moving. Wow. Freaking Nvidia. They're going to put up 70% revenue growth, can barely get a green candle. Tesla is not growing anymore, up 7%. I mean, a lot of times narrative is more than the actual numbers. And with Tesla, I mean, that is a example, one of the perfect examples of how that's taking place. It's about to go to 304, folks, 50 cents away from 304 on Tessie. Dude, not bad. Let me check resistance at 304. I think that's also relatively easy. Yeah, it's like 7,000 shares. It's nothing. If the volume's there, Tesla can get there. And the thing is, when Tesla runs, it runs, right? We know that. When Tesla runs, it runs. Robinhood, 56.27, dude. If Robinhood is trying to go for 57, that would be exciting as well. But when Tesla runs, it runs. And it usually tends to be pretty dramatic. 57 on Hood is 25,000 shares. 25,000 shares for 57. Palantir right here at 118 currently right now. Let's do another poll as well, given they're pretty much at the same price, although different market caps, obviously. But Palantir and Nvidia, which one is higher by end of year? Which one is higher by end of year? Palantir, Nvidia. Obviously different market caps. Nvidia's 3 trillion, Palantir's 300 billion. So it's not just that the stock prices are the same, that, you know, they're going to move the same way, but it's kind of interesting. Palantir at 117, Nvidia at 117. I kind of wonder, Palantir's already up 40% year to date. Nvidia's still down 20% year to date. I wonder which one actually ends the year higher than the other. Tesla right here at 302.95 currently right now. Rocket Lab's getting hit badly, dude. Rocket Lab down 9%. I have no idea why the market is disrespecting Rocket Lab as much as they are right now, but they are. And they are getting them hit. DraftKings as well, up 6%. That one, great earnings. That one's green. That's about 5.6%. SoFi right here, 1340. You got Meta at 601, and then Palantir right here at 117.97 currently right now. All right, let's go back to Kathy, see what she has to say about the tariffs, and then we'll keep going from there.
Well, we have been saying, actually, I just put out a letter talking about the rolling recession we've been in for the last 3 years since the Fed jacked up rates. We got a negative quarter in the first quarter, potentially in the second quarter as well. And I think more and more people are getting concerned about an extended recession and amid all the uncertainty. We actually think we're at the end of this rolling recession and that we are moving into a period after all of this uncertainty of much greater productivity. And interestingly, if you look at the government sector, we're seeing unbelievable productivity moves taking place. There's a video out there between the FDA, the new head of the FDA, and the new head of CBER, and they're talking about generative AI in reviewing studies, medical trials that cut work from days to minutes. So
304 on Tessie. 304 on Tessie. Someone's buying. And they are loving what they're buying right now. Tesla stock right here up 7% on the day.
There's a lot of productivity, I think, evolving in the ecosystem. I think companies are now enterprises. We see from Palantir that this is now a strategic decision for companies.
By the way, Kathy sold 100,000 shares of Palantir yesterday and 400,000 shares the other day. I get it. She bought at 12, but still she's been offloading some of her position as well.
So I think we're going to see a lot more productivity-driven growth, which means inflation is going to be much lower than expected, which is going to be very capital-friendly.
You've talked for a long time about Bitcoin getting to $500,000 a coin, depending on the time frame. I think you were hoping for it to be there now. We are back up over $100,000 now. We're about $103,000. To the extent you have a thesis about this, what is it at this point? And what would your new target be?
Yes. So we have always had a 2030 target, the base case in the 700 to 750,000 range, the bull case in the $1.5 million range. David Puel, our analyst and our on-chain analyst, put that piece out recently. And you can see the building blocks, how much share we expect Bitcoin to either take from gold or grow that store of value market. Institutions moving in, and they've barely moved in. We have 1 million more coins, roughly, to be minted ever. And institutions are just testing the waters right now. And then there's the emerging market use case as well. So we think we have miles to go, yes.
Tesla.
Yes.
Where are you on Tesla at this point? You've been a bull for a very, very long time. We're at $287.
Yes. Well, as we have put out there, our target.
305 has 50,000 shares, which really isn't a lot of shares given Tesla just overcame a couple million shares to get to this level. So 305 resistance, 55,000 shares.
In 5 years, so 2030 again, is $2,600. And our confidence in that number has gone up now that Tesla is commercializing robotaxis in August, in June. What we don't have in that number and what is happening faster than we expected, and as you know, we're very focused on learning curves and how quickly new technologies are going to evolve. Humanoid robots. And Elon has been talking about that market being bigger ultimately than the robotaxi market. And he talks about Tesla.
Did we hit 305? Oh my goodness, bro. 305 on Tessie. For those that are just joining the stream, those that just woke up, those that just came in, there is zero headline that I've seen other than the woman you were just listening to, who I think is the reason people are buying Teslas today. She went on CNBC for the first time in 5 months and said that this thing's going to basically 3,000 a share. Market's excited, and we're up 7% on Tesla.
Tesla being number one globally when it comes to humanoid robots, and also says that China is number 2 to 10. So we have to get moving on that score as well. We think that's a $26 trillion revenue opportunity split between home and industrial in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be a huge market. And the reason Tesla is ahead of the game is we're talking about the three platforms it's already innovating on. Robots, robotaxis are robots. Energy storage, they will be electric. And AI. Those are the 3 technologies in the humanoid robot movement as well.
Dude, I think that was enough, bro. I think that was enough. $26 trillion. I mean, you got a lot of people watching her say that. They say, you know what? I want to make a return from 1 trillion to 26 trillion. Maybe that's all it took. Maybe that's all it took. Let's check resistance for 306 on Tessie. 306 is 2,000. No, 19,000 shares. 19,580 shares. 19,580 shares. Again, not a lot to overcome. Bitcoin right here, 103.4. Trying to get back to that 104 level. GameStop's up a little bit on the day. Archer's up a little bit. Where is Palantir? Palantir 117. And then Hood, we're still holding 55, just below that 56 level. But at 55. Did we just hit 306? Did we hit it? Dude, what is happening, bro? Holy crap. And it's not just 306, it's 306.50. It's on the way to 307. The resistance at 307 is 10,200 shares. That doesn't seem that aggressive. That is, it's like a new dollar every 2 seconds, dude. This is freaking incredible. By the way, you guys said NVIDIA will be higher than Palantir by the end of the year. 54% of you think NVIDIA will be higher than Palantir by the end of the year. Oh, TSLL must be going crazy. If Tesla's up 7%, the double leveraged fund is up 15%, which makes sense. 1195. I know this fund is a vehicle a lot of people sell puts on, sell calls on, etc. So TSLL up 15% with Tessie trying to go for 307. Oh yeah, Farzad if Farzad's in the chat, we know Farzad is smiling today, and he should be pretty happy. Dude, one of you guys just sent me an email. You guys are insane. The subject of the email is open positions within AK Media. Good morning, Mr. Kukraja. I wanted to reach out this morning regarding any and all open opportunities with your majestic company, AK Media. Being founder-led and having strong ties to the community, I believe AK Media is shifting the paradigm and is the future of financial content. I look forward to helping you grow AK Media and taking over the zeitgeist. And then they put the guy from that video. What's the guy from that video who does the never gonna give you up, never gonna, what's that guy's name? What's the guy's name? That video? You know the video that the link that you sent to people when you're like trolling them? What's the freaking guy's name, bro? It starts with an R, right? Rick something? Rick Astley? Yeah, Rick Rolled. It's called Rick Rolled, right? It's called Rick Rolled, right? What's the name of that song? What's the name of that song? Why am I forgetting this? I should know this. Rick Roll. Oh, Never Gonna Give You Up. Yes, Never Gonna Give You Up. Okay, I just said the lyrics and I forgot the Rick. So then he puts a picture of the guy. Dude, I can't make this up. I can't make this. You guys are actually insane. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. You put you guys are ridiculous, bro. Like legit ridiculous. Open positions with AK Media. It's ridiculous. Never Gonna Give You Up. Yes, exactly. I got Rick Rolled, basically. I got Rick Rolled from this email. Yeah, I can't play it on YouTube. It's like that song. Talk about copyright. That song has 1.6 billion views, bro. Look at this thing. 1.6 billion views. Most of those views from people who send it out to people they want to troll. So there you go. I wonder what Rick Astley is doing in his life right now. Tesla right here, 306. Rick Astley. How old is this guy? Rick Astley. This guy's 59 years old. Oh, he's a Brit. He's from the UK. Wow. I thought this guy was American. Rick Astley, huh? He's a Brit. 305 right here on Tessie. And he's about 60 years old right now. All right, there you go. Yeah, he's an English singer and radio DJ. All right, that's what we got. CleanSpark's running with Marathon as well. CleanSpark, look at that, 12%. Not good earnings for both of these companies, but when Bitcoin's mooning, I mean, they're going to get some love. CleanSpark and Marathon right here, up about 12% on the day. Palantir's basically flat. Meta's at 600. Verizon's flat on the day. Tesla 304, getting rejected at that 306 level. Robinhood right here, 56, back above 56. All the semis getting some love. AMD at 103, that's up 1.4. NVIDIA 117. SMCI is up a little bit. Lyft, big day on Lyft, that's up 22%. And then you got Uber right here, is up 1.45% as well. Okay, so the Lyft CEO is one of my favorite CEOs. I really wish I bought his stock when it was $9. If you guys remember 2023, I was looking at their margins. I kind of felt that they were cheap. I didn't end up pulling the trigger, and I wish I did because obviously the stock has performed, and I think Lyft as a number 2 to Uber still is not a horrible investment. But one of the other reasons I wanted to buy the stock is because the CEO. The CEO, I just like how this guy talks. I like how he communicates. I haven't watched this video together, but I remember watching him for the first time a year ago, and his enthusiasm and energy is the type of energy you need in a CEO. So this stock right here up 22%. Let's see what he has to say and see if he's causing any more momentum on the stock currently right now.
Of this news, so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
If the chart it's gotten a lot better as the years progressed. Obviously, it wasn't on an overall basis. We can contextualize much.
And services, as you know, tend to do well even in times of uncertainty. So far, we're not seeing anything to worry about. In fact, sort of the opposite. As you said, we've been growing. It's our 16th consecutive growth quarter, which is amazing. Rides are up over 16%. So we're feeling pretty good about what we see.
In terms, though, of what the business looks like longer term, the international piece of it and everything else, how should investors think about that now?
So, I've been in the job for about 2 years now, and my focus from the beginning has been the same, which is customer obsession drives profitable growth. And that's what we've been seeing in the US for now quite a long time. We're, profitable, we're generating cash and so on and so forth. And we're growing in Canada as well, which is super exciting. We're actually doubled in Canada year on year. So, as you know, when we talked a couple of weeks ago, we've decided to acquire FreeNow, a company overseas. And that helps us kind of diversify, our revenue base. Obviously, it sort of de-risks things and gives us some diversification. I think what works here in the United States is going to work well overseas, and vice versa. We're going to learn a bunch. So hopefully create an even stronger company as a result.
But what is that?
So again, that acquisition they did of FreeNow was also a pretty big deal, and that got them a lot of momentum. Lyft right here up 22% currently on the day. The market is liking something about Lyft, and maybe it's the consolidation of ride hailing and mobilities along with the deliveries part of the business. And that's what's creating this momentum. Uber right here is up 1%. Grab not doing too much, even though it's in that same sector. Grab right here basically down 0.25%. And then DoorDash is up about 0.69% as well. Lyft really the one that's taking off. Here's an update on Truth Social with Trump and some of the updates on tariffs for China.
Obviously, who's going to talk to the Chinese this weekend. That would be a significant pullback from the 145% tariffs that are in place now. So the question is, when does the president want to do that? And I want to draw your attention to some potentially significant remarks a short time ago here at the White House from National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Asked by reporters about the president's social media post there, he said this.
On China tomorrow, Trump said today 80% would be okay.
It will come out tomorrow what happens is a negotiation.
So you don't anticipate any drop in tariffs before those talks?
I think that everything will happen while the talks are happening, not before.
So note that Hassett said there it will come out tomorrow and it will happen while the talks are happening. Now that sets up a potentially dramatic scenario this weekend where we could see the president significantly walk back China tariffs as part of or immediately after the meeting in Switzerland between the...
Dude, and if that happens, if we get a Sunday announcement where Trump says 30%, 40% tariffs after percent meets in Switzerland, I mean... that could be another reason markets are going up right now. That could be another reason Tesla's moving up. It's just in the anticipation of a China deal that's coming pretty soon.
U.S. and the Chinese negotiating teams. Now, I asked a White House official if that scenario could be coming. The official said there's a reason why Kevin made those remarks. So anything can happen here, guys. Note of caution, as always. But the president and his staff right now are leaning heavily into this idea of walking back those China tariffs, guys. Back over to you.
Yeah, interesting. Certainly conceivably, I guess, would set the stage for for talks that might progress from there, Eamon. That said,
Yep.
80%. I mean, if people term 145% an embargo, I'm not quite sure how they'll term 80%, but it is still a fairly significant hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, the question is whether importers can make money at 80% or not. You know, does that sort of turn off the spigot altogether for imports from China, even if it's significantly lower than 145? At some point, it doesn't make any difference. If you can't make money, you're not going to trade, right? And then, look, the president's position changes on things. I mean, we saw yesterday a source familiar with the president's thinking come out and tell us that he was considering, in the tax bill context, allowing the rates on earners of 2.5 million and above to increase back to 39+% from 37 where they are now. That is a big thing for a Republican president to be talking about a tax increase on anybody, particularly the very top. Now we saw the president put out a social media post where he says, actually, you know, I'm fine if Congress does that. They don't have to, but arguing that ultimately the tax increases were not what doomed the first President Bush's administration. So the presidents are waffling on that after we got some indication that yesterday he was embracing the idea. So it's a moving target around here oftentimes, but they're leaning in now to this idea of walking back tariffs.
The 10-year right here, 4.357. We got to get this damn 10-year to come down, which means we've got to walk back tariffs as well. That might be another reason why the China negotiations are gaining some momentum. We can't have the market pumping and the 10-year pumping as well. I mean, technically we can. It's just not going to be good because we got to refinance $9.5 trillion in debt coming up pretty soon. So I think the only way that really gets that 10-year down is Jay Powell cutting rates. And the only way Jay Powell's going to cut rates is if he thinks the tariff volatility is dying down. So deals at this moment, forget even for the stock market, they're more important than ever because it's the only thing it seems like, based on Jay Powell's FOMC conference, that's going to convince him to bring down rates. And that hopefully will allow us to refinance debt at a much cheaper rate here right now. Tassie right here, 305. So cannot get to 307. Still got stuck at 306, but I think a close above 300, everyone would be pretty happy about to see if we can get there as well. Kavan, thank you for joining the membership and becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate it. Aldrich, thank you for giving out a channel membership and gifting it. Also, thank you for the $5 super chat. I'm with Sonny from the H at work. Thanks for making us rich. We are about to retire. I love it. Super, super awesome. Again, it's been a volatile market. And, you know, retail's best shot in these markets is buying the dip. Unless you know exactly what you're doing when it comes to hedging, the best thing you can do is just buy the dip and hopefully buy it and give yourself some time to allow the market to recognize what you recognize, which is, you know, what a lot of people did on Palantir, a lot of people did on Hood. Obviously, a lot of people have done this on Tesla over the past decade. And it's obviously been very life-changing. This is, again, why I think, you know, YouTube Finance is such an interesting part of the platform. It's like people have literally changed their lives by investing in equities. And it's just crazy, bro. It's just crazy when you figure out how much power and independence you can have when you own assets. And that is the cool part about investing. Where is HIMS today? HIMS is down 2.5. So HIMS, I mean, dude, no one can be upset at HIMS for any of this price action, even if it's red on the day. It's up 70% for the week. So I think a lot of people should be relatively happy on HIMS this week. Squeezed after a good earnings. It was down 10% after earnings. Then it went up 35%. So HIMS right here at $50 and 18 cents right now. Dude, yeah, someone in the chat said maybe Tom Lee was right. Tesla to lead the Max 7. Is this not the V shape that Tom Lee was calling for? I mean, he was a little early on calling it, but this is the V shape, right? Like, he said we would have a ridiculous V shape from the April 8th lows once the tariff volatility dies down. And if you look at the S&P, we're basically there. Now, he thought it would happen towards the middle of April. It ended up happening towards the end of April, early May, but it did happen. It did indeed happen. There's your V right there. So, I mean, if that's not a V shape, I don't know what a V shape is. We were at 57, went all the way down to 48. Now we're back at 56.5. It's not too crazy. Not too crazy. Tesla's not a V shape exactly. That's correct. But Tesla still doing good. I mean, is Tesla leading the Mag 7? I think it's Meta, then Tesla. It's definitely not Google. It's not Apple. It's not Nvidia. It's not Amazon. So I still think he's right that Tesla's up there in terms of leading the Mag 7 in terms of performance, even though it's down year to date. But from the lows of April 8th, I think Meta's the only one that's done better from 484 to 600, but Tesla basically from 215 now to 305 on the day. It's more like a W. Yeah, you guys are right. It's more like a W. It's definitely more like a W on Tessie. Why is SoFi not following the rest of the market? I think the market needs rate cuts for SoFi at this point. And so I don't know. Until we get rate cuts, SoFi there's just not a really catalyst here. I was talking with Steve about SoFi yesterday, and he said a couple of days ago on the show that he's thinking of trimming a quarter of the SoFi position and putting it into HIMS. I think he's writing some covered calls on SoFi at 15, so he's become more aggressive with his covered calls. The thing about SoFi that I think is also really interesting is that SoFi has a very large retail investor base. Like, I would say SoFi's retail investor base is way larger than Robinhood's investor base, and it's way larger than Rocket Lab's investor base. But the retail army has not really been able to get SoFi to get some of that momentum. And that's where I'm kind of thinking the institutions are playing with the stock. They're just not letting it get the multiple that you would want a tech company to get, even if, maybe they don't think SoFi is a tech company, but still they're not giving it any level of a nuanced multiple here. Even though there's a big retail army that's buying and diamond handing SoFi. So it's kind of weird. It kind of feels like the algorithms just don't want to give it a tech multiple, don't want to give it a higher price to book. I mean, SoFi's already trading at a higher price to book than every other bank besides JP Morgan. So maybe there is some level of institutional hesitancy to allow SoFi to run, because there's a big retail investor base. You would think retail would, look what retail's done to Palantir. I'm not saying it's the only reason why Palantir's at 120, but still, retail's helped. Retail's helped Hood. Retail's definitely helped Tesla. That SoFi community is strong, but it might just be harder for them to get that tech multiple here. What else do we have? Disney, that was up 10% on the day. On the earnings 2 days ago. Disney right here, 105. That's up a little bit, and that's green. QBTS, that was up 30% yesterday. That one's doing great. 11.42. Wow, it's up another 9% today, dude. Holy crap. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Meta right here at 597, and then D-Wave 11.37. Axon had a great earnings as well. These guys are up about 1%, 693. They were 600 on earnings. So you got a nice 10% boost on Axon right here, almost at $700 a share. Not too bad. Rumble also relatively normal earnings. That one, I think that's getting squeezed up 24%. Let me check the short float. Rumble's earnings did not warrant a 25% move, but maybe their short float does. They are shorted 11%. So that could be a bit of a squeeze that's happening on Rumble. Adobe, this is one that Jeremy started getting excited about. Adobe right here at 386. That's up about 0.6%. Bitcoin at 103. And Adobe's numbers do look good. They do look pretty damn good. I just don't think there's a narrative that's exciting about Adobe, but you can't deny the numbers are pretty incredible for the discount it's trading at. I also think there's a bit of a Canva risk and a risk that other AI companies are going to be able to do what Adobe does for cheap, but the actual fundamentals of the business are very strong. Robinhood right here at 55, Tesla 303. All right, so Tesla's getting rejected at 307, not able to break above that level, but still holding 300, which is not bad. And then Palantir right here, 118.16 currently right now. Trade Desk, great earnings. These guys pumped heavy, 23% after being down 60% year to date. Where's SMCI? SMCI, they had earnings that were kind of 2 days ago. They're basically flat. And then Rocket Lab, still don't know why that thing's down 10%, but a Rocket Lab is down 12%. Does anyone have a theory on Rocket Lab? Like, I don't have a single reason for why the street is this upset. I didn't listen to the call, so I don't know what the folks said on the call. But they might have said something that got the street upset. We have some updates from China and Switzerland. Let's read this right here. A Swiss official says Chinese delegation will come for a second round of trade talks in July. Wow. U.S. would refrain from new increase in custom tariffs, pause on tariffs not to be lifted during negotiations, have the impression the U.S. is seeking tailor-made solutions with individual countries. So a Swiss official is saying that it looks like there will be a second round of trade talks going into July after these first talks this weekend, and that the U.S. is not going to be pausing on tariffs even during the negotiations, and that they're looking for custom-made solutions with individual countries based on the ones that they work with. I don't know if the market's going to wait until July for us to get a trade deal. I would imagine it probably takes a couple months, so I don't think the market is going to hate it if we wait till July. As long as we get some updates on a trade deal going into July, I think the market can probably wait. But I don't think we can wait till September, October, bro. If we wait until the fall for the trade deal with China, we might have some issues. We might have some issues there. Rock Lab down 10.4% here right now. July is like 20 minutes away. That is true. It's going by fast. It is going by fast. Rick Roll. Yep. Dude, if we wait until freaking August, September, October, we all got Rick rolled on these tariffs. And we kind of can't afford that right now. We cannot afford that right now. Here's the Flexport CEO. This is a private $15 billion company that deals with shipping and logistics. Let's get his perspective on what's going on with tariffs.
Look when it comes to the true impact so far of President Trump's tariffs. But our next guest arguing in the Journal, the implications are catastrophic and that if nothing changes, it'll be a, quote, extinction level asteroid wiping out the dinosaurs moment for small businesses here in the U.S. Ryan Peterson, founder and CEO of Flexport, a global freight logistics company, joining us now. Thank you so much for being here to extrapolate on this, because that quote to me says, I'm trying to get the attention of Washington, and here's the way I'm going to do it. Why?
I think that's, yeah, thanks for having me on. I think that's fair to say. I do want to get their attention because we have tens of thousands of businesses that ship with Flexport, where we provide logistics services, help them move their cargo around the world. And a lot of them are small, medium-sized businesses that don't have a voice at the table. They don't have a seat at the table. They're not involved at the White House in these conversations. And so no one's really advocating on their behalf to say, hey, these tariffs are going to wipe us out. 145% tariff, or, you know, Trump said this morning, maybe 80% is where he wants it to be on goods from China is not sustainable.
We're actually getting some red candle, folks. Robinhood 56 to 54. Tesla, are we below 300? Tesla 301 from 307, and then the S&P. It looks like that July roundtable of talks was kind of bearish. The market thinks it's going to take longer than expected. S&P just went red. S&P just went red on the day. So markets definitely did not like the idea that it's going to take many, many months to get this trade deal done.
Well, the companies simply won't be able to make money. They'll have to lay people off. They'll have to, and then you just get this cascading supply-led recession that's likely to hit.
Can you extrapolate on some of the specific challenges your customers are facing, especially in this current juncture where there seems to be a lot of uncertainty, and as they wait for some clarity on these specific trade deals?
I mean, the challenge is pretty simple. It's just like they bought these goods, and the tariffs were implemented so fast that when they bought the goods from China, the tariffs weren't this high, and then all of a sudden they got put in place. So they've already purchased the goods and then just get hit with this giant bill they didn't plan for. Millions of dollars in many cases, and most small businesses don't have millions of dollars laying around to pay it.
Ryan, we just saw the April numbers in terms of imports from China, but you have real-time data that is somewhat unique. So tell me what you're seeing right now, and are we approaching or near this point that many have talked about where we're going to start to see shelves that are empty of products and the like?
Yeah, so we have, starting April 9th, which is the day that the tariffs took effect, bookings from China for ocean freight declined by 60% overnight. Now, a booking is placed about 2 weeks before the container departs from China, and it'll be another 2 to 3 weeks before it arrives in the United States. So really the impact for that is starting this week at the U.S. ports, where you've had Long Beach and Los Angeles, the biggest container port in the U.S., had a 35% decline, 60% from China, but 35% overall decline in container volumes. It's going to take a while for that to show up on the shelves because companies knew April 2nd and then April 9th was coming. They stocked up. They have a fair amount of inventory to sell through. So if they change relatively quickly here, this may not be a big issue. You may never see empty shelves. And I might just be the guy screaming into the void. But if they don't change course, you will see empty shelves later this summer. My view is empty shelves aren't, it's not a tragedy. You go to the store and try to buy something, they don't have it, you'll be fine. The tragedy is if you lose your job because your company can't sell anything and it goes out of business.
Dude, what a turn of events, eh? Look at that. Red across the board. I mean, let's see if it settles out here or if we have further room to go. Palantir 117, NVIDIA red 116, Grab down 1%, SMCI down 0.5%, Eli Lilly that's down, Hoodie was at 56, now 54. Tesla's holding 300. I think you got to be happy that Tesla's at least holding 300. But that one is also getting a little bit of a hit. PayPal right here, 70.59. That's basically red. SoFi goes red. I mean, I guess it's either the 1030 slam, S&P red, or it's the Swiss officials saying July, we're going to have a second round of talks. And, you know, if the market thought we were going to get a deal, you know, overnight, that probably was too high of an expectation. But maybe the market thought end of May, early June, we get a deal. If the expectation is July, I mean, we got a couple months. We got a couple months that we got to wait. I don't think that's that crazy, though. Like, it's China and the United States. This is, you know, two big hegemonies trying to figure out what a trade deal looks like and rewriting an entire apparatus of how they think of a free trade. Like, that's going to take some time. Now, I don't think it needs to take 10 months, but it's probably going to take 2 to 3 months. I don't think that's crazy, but it looks like the market maybe was expecting it a little bit too soon. I think that's the headline. I don't see anything else coming across my feed that could have had that reversal other than a 1030 slam potentially. Chinese Commerce Minister says China firmly opposes U.S. abuse of reciprocal tariffs. That's fine. I mean, I don't think there's anything breaking there. And then, yeah, the Swiss president said, we are very happy that the U.S. and China are holding talks in Switzerland. Well, yeah, I mean, there's your formula, right? If China tariffs are delayed and we don't get any rate cuts anytime soon, that could definitely easily give the market a reason to go red. Also, I mean, we have been pumping for the past 2 weeks aggressively. So this would, I mean, look, we're at greed, on fear and greed. Pretty simple, right? Sometimes it's just you get up there and you need to take a little bit of a breather. That doesn't mean you sell everything, but that does mean you know, maybe don't get as risk on as you want it to be. But then you look at something like Bitcoin, which was at 104 yesterday. It's at 102 right now. The fact that it's above 100,000, it's hard not to think this is a emblematic element of being risk on. But if Bitcoin's becoming a counter-cyclical asset, maybe it's not really risk on. Maybe it's risk off as a way to hedge against people going risk on. I mean, that could be the new paradigm by which people think about Bitcoin. It might be too soon to tell, but you are seeing some momentum on that asset right now. And then Celsius, that's our actual economic indicator. When Celsius goes green, that's when you get bearish because it never goes green when everything's green. So Celsius up 5% right here. makes sense that the S&P is down a little bit right now. Look, if you got covered calls, this is why you kind of let them go until expiration sometimes because they can print. They can print. If this continues throughout the rest of the day, covered calls can expire worthless and you can make some money on those today. Where is Fartcoin? Fartcoin is, see, this is why it's hard to say we're risk off, but Fartcoin is now up 17% on the day. $1.3 billion market cap. I still don't know how you buy Fartcoin, dude. I don't even know. Like, is it on Phantom? It's on Solana. You gotta go through Radium and do a swap of your Solana for Fartcoins. Like, this is, if anything, Robinhood should just put this on. Like, they should just list this at this point. Like, if people are gonna buy it, if people want to buy Fartcoin, you might as well list it on the major exchanges at this point. But Fartcoin as well. That one is green. Is that real? That is real. We've been tracking it since it was literally 7 cents. Unfortunately, at least I did not buy at those levels, and I saw it go up every single day. So there you go. Gold is up 1%. Oh yeah, market's getting a little scared right here. Look at that. Yeah, market's getting a little scared. This was 3,500 2 days ago after India, Pakistan died down a little bit as the market went back into risk on. And now gold's up 1% right here. Really interesting, dude. Really interesting. If it's really that July headline that's causing this, I feel like that's a bit too aggressive for the market to be upset. But I mean, it seems like that's the reason here.
Yeah. I'm curious then what you think about 80%, given that's been floated as the new potential tariff on Chinese goods, at least in the interim while something else is negotiated. Do you have any sense from your customers what that would mean for their business?
I think 80% still going to break most business models. I think a lot of this is also about the implementation timeline of how fast they do it. That, it takes a long time to move manufacturing to a different country, and you can't do it in a month. You can't do it in a few months even. And so if you phase it in over time, companies won't die. They can go find new factories around the world. They can adapt. It's when there's this like central planning that overnight changes the nature of the economy that companies don't have time to react to that. But I think 80% is probably still way too high. Obviously, it's better than 145. We'll take it. But I think one thing that we do know here, by the way, is 10% tariff on rest of the world. Companies absorb that with seemingly no problem. Volumes from rest of world into the U.S. went up by 5% since April 9th. So that's a sign that, hey, 10%, the market can absorb it. Life goes on. So it's somewhere between 10 and 145.
Yeah.
It's really hard to put that number.
Well, that's so we want to pin you down. If 145 is extreme on the high side and 10% is easily absorbed, 80% still breaks models. I mean, where is the number where you think vendors would be confident enough to resume orders?
That's the fascinating thing in all of this is that nobody knows. Nobody can know. There's second order effects, and no one knows what the elasticity of their product is. If you raise the price, normally you can just test that, but you can't test it in an environment where everyone else is also forced to raise their price. You can't test these things, and that's why the economy is not meant to be centrally planned. It's meant to be left to market forces to figure out.
Finally, you're a private company. I'm just curious what your business looks like or how this impacts your own business. Are some of your services more in demand in terms of what you can do and how you can move things around? But at the same time, I assume with just the lack of overall demand, that may hurt.
It's definitely a mixed bag. I mean, our core business is air and ocean freight. And so, it's price times quantity, and your quantity is way down. So volumes, when volumes decline, our revenue goes down. We do have the silver lining for us is we're one of the largest customs brokerages in the world. So helping companies figure out what HS code they have to use and what the valuation should be and help them pay those duties.
Pretty incredible, dude. I mean, you got Flexport, which if you don't know, it's a really amazing private company that helps businesses with ocean and freight shipping. And you got this CEO saying, hey, 80% is ridiculous. It's better than 145%, but that's still too much. Rest of world imports to the United States are up, or exports are up 10%, which is good, but China's down about 5%. And then he's saying the free market should figure out what the tariff rate is, not countries. But, Trump's got a different plan in terms of how he's thinking of what these reciprocal rates should look like. So you got the markets that are starting to get a bit dumpy here. Tesla barely holding on to 300. Barely. SoFi, that looks like it's about to fall below 13. Robinhood, I mean, a 52-ish close for the week would make me happy. 54 would be great, but Robinhood giving back everything from 56. Palantir 116. Nvidia almost 2%. My goodness, that's down. And then you got the broader S&P that's down, 0.5%? Almost 0.5% on the day. For those that are wondering why this is happening, the best guess I have is that a Swiss official came out and said we will have a second round of talks between the United States and China in July. I think the market was expecting by the end of May we would make some serious progress, and maybe we will. But that Swiss official saying what they said is getting the market to price in a further delay of these negotiations manifesting themselves into any real deal. Now, the scary thing is, based on what the Flexport CEO just said, is that, again, shipping rates or the volume of ships coming into our ports, bringing products from China, 65% down year over year in the month of April. That doesn't mean we're going to run out of products and goods and services immediately on our shelves, but that does mean there's going to be businesses that have a lot less demand, a lot less inventory, a lot less ability to pay the custom import duties. And as a result, they might have to lay off some people. And when you lay off some of those people have less money to be able to spend. And so it turns into this cycle, which can become very aggressive. I think the easiest way to solve this, even if we don't get a negotiation anytime soon, is Trump just getting rid of the 145% tariff and making it like 50%, at least for the time being during the negotiations. But I don't know if he's going to do that. This morning, he tweeted that he wants 80% tariff. So right now, that could be something that is creating a bit of pain right now. We did make some progress, though, from 125 to 80, correct? We did make some. It's like Palantir stock in February, 125 to 80. That's similar to these Chinese tariffs right here. Anything above 40% is essentially a soft embargo. I agree, dude. I feel like, dude, the market was fine with 10 to 20%. If you guys remember, on April 2nd in the morning, we were pumping before Liberation Day because the market had pretty much priced in 10 to 15%. And they would say, you know what? It's a new normal, but we can still have a bull market with 10% tariffs across the world. And then Trump announces 70%, 40%, 30%, 80%, 145%. Like once he put that out, the market was like, okay, we don't know what to do with this. But the reason we recovered is because he walked back a lot of that stuff. And I think on China, I don't know if you get above 50% and meaningfully are able to save industries with that number. I think the magic number has got to be at max 30% and realistically, hopefully 20 to 25%. But maybe they are using it as a negotiation channel right now. I mean, dude, like, for example, this is a pie in the sky dream, right? It's never going to happen. But let's say Trump says, okay, we'll take 145% down to 15%, but you guys have to allow Google, Amazon, and Meta to operate in China. Never going to happen. There's no way in hell, like 0% chance ever that Xi Jinping would allow that. But just imagine if like the 145% was leverage to go down to 10%, and then we opened up the Chinese market to some of our tech companies. It's never going to happen, but I think that's what Trump is expecting, something like that, something so phenomenal that he's able to pull off by bringing down the crazy tariff rates back down to normal, but still getting a major concession. It's just, you know, what does that concession look like? Because it's not going to get Meta going into freaking China. That's not happening. So what is it going to be? And I think right now the market just has no clue what that is going to end up being. Here's another update on these China 80% tariffs, and then we'll keep going from there.
Of some of these tariffs, but on the Chinese side, the signaling has been that China will remain tough. And a lot of this messaging is for the Chinese audience. So this is meet China halfway, treat China as an equal in talks, and don't expect us really to go and to these talks and fall over. They're saying that if you try to coerce us, we will walk or refuse. And then on top of that, the point of the rare earths, the Chinese are saying that we can hit you back where it's really going to hurt. The Commerce Ministry today announced a crackdown on rare earth smuggling and blaming it in part on foreign entities. And then the social media account that's linked to CCTV, which is very closely followed for its commentary on U.S.-China trade, has been mocking the U.S. for what they've described as rare earth shortages. So the expectations right now of anything meaningful coming out of these weekend talks really isn't there. But, you know, of course, people are hoping that we will see some negotiations down the line. And in fact, that's what Bessent has said, that this is really more of an initial discussion before we see some hard negotiations down the line.
Meantime, David mentioned the Chinese export data that we got for April. Exports to the U.S. down 21, but to Vietnam up 23. Up to Thailand, up 28, to Indonesia, up 37. Are they finding other homes for these goods?
Yeah, no, the way that these numbers have been painted here is very much falling into what China has as a narrative, that it's now not as in relying as much on the U.S. market as before. So what was interesting was that there was a surge of 8.1% for these numbers. But, you know, at the end of the day, though, of course, China does still rely on exports and does want to keep selling to the U.S. So a lot of this is also just feeding into their narrative.
Meantime, I wonder what they thought of the UK gaggle in the Oval yesterday. The Journal's got some reporting that the president actually called Starmer while Starmer was watching an Arsenal soccer match. Starmer was not planning to have an announcement on Thursday, but the president sort of, I guess, talked him into it, according to the Journal's reporting. Is there a sense that the U.S. is trying to gin up some wins?
I didn't hear the last question that you had said, something about ginning up something, but in terms of when you look at the way that President Trump would approach the UK, an ally, and the way he would be, you know, he would be seen in China is really, really different because these are such different countries. And of course, like the political systems are quite different. So, you know, you would see that President Trump would be coming under pressure politically much more than than the Chinese. And also what I find interesting is just the political messaging and the pressure that President Trump is under. In fact, it looks as though, at least from here, that his political success is very much tied to getting these trade deals done. Whereas President Xi is just all about, standing firm and making sure that China doesn't get treated badly. So I think at the end of the day, if the Chinese walk away with nothing, then, it really doesn't matter from a political standpoint. But for President Trump, I wonder if it would matter if there wasn't any movement there and what would happen with the markets.
Yeah, that is going to make Monday morning very interesting, depending on the headlines that we get by Sunday night. Eunice, thank you. As always, Eunice Yoon.
Well, folks, there you go. I mean, that's what's causing some of this downside today. Now, it's not continuing. S&P is recovering a little bit right here. We were down 0.35. Now we're down 0.17. So it's not as aggressive in terms of a sustained sell-off, which I think is fair because the market should have known that we're not going to get a deal by the end of May. But July, I don't think it's crazy to expect. I think what the market's more scared about is if a second round of talks are happening in July, which is 2 months away from May, then the actual negotiation won't be done until September, right? Because talks are talks, but eventually you got to sit down and really get a deal done. CrowdStrike right here down 5% as well. So maybe the market's more so reacting to the fact that they thought talks would be ongoing all throughout May and June, and then a deal would come in July. And, maybe they just had a bit too high of an expectation right there. CrowdStrike down 4.8%. Fortinet was down 9% yesterday after their earnings. They're down another 2% right here. So cybersecurity getting not the best strength over the past couple of days. Palantir right here, 116.72 currently right now. Yeah, the July meeting basically equals more uncertainties. Exactly. Exactly. And so that's what's creating some pain here as well. Shout out to Tony G. There he is. Tony sent the email with Rick Astley in it about AK Media. I think Tony, you've been watching the channel for 3-4 years now, right? So Tony's been here for a minute. I read your email out loud to everyone, Tony. It was a very funny email. See, the subject is open roles for AK Media. I was like, goodness gracious, bro. You guys are crazy. Now here's the thing. In terms of the meeting. This meeting's got to go well this week. Besant in the Swiss Alps has to be able to meaningfully get some progress on what he wants. China's obviously going to have their own agenda. It's going to be something where I would hope the headline on Monday is positive. If the headline is China and the US don't reach any level of progress in trade talks because it's going to leak somehow, we're going down. We are going down. So we really need a headline that says China and the US reach amicable first steps on a framework for a trade deal. Anything that sounds like that, futures will be up. But we need to see. We need to see if that happens. Steve will be on the market close. He'll be on the market close today. Again, usually on Fridays. He's stuck in meetings during the day, but he'll be on the market close later today, and we'll get his thoughts. I did call him yesterday, and he's annoyed about Palantir. He's like, maybe I don't. He was like, do I not understand investing? Do I not just valuation just never matter to anyone? And I was like, no, dude, you're right about the numbers. No one's saying you're wrong. It's just she's a unicorn. That's it. That's all it is. And so he's come to the conclusion at this point that he's going to just do what he can do to buy back his calls. He has $45 covered calls for December 2026. So, they're a little bit under the water right here. He doesn't want to, this is how you know how much he's annoyed, because he doesn't want to lose his shares. He loves Palantir so much. And I think his average is $10. So let's say he had to sell it at 45. He would still make a 4x on his shares, but he loves this company so much. His analytical part of his brain is just so annoyed with the valuation, but he is willing to do whatever he has to do to make the money back, to buy back his covered calls, which, at this point, I don't know how much he's down, but it's got to be tens of thousands of dollars here just to be able to keep his shares. So the real reason he's annoyed that Palantir is going up is not that Palantir is going up. Yes, he's annoyed about the valuation. The real reason is that he wants to keep his shares, and it's becoming harder and harder for him to keep it with these damn covered calls when the stock keeps going up. But to me, that just shows how much he loves this company. It just shows how much he loves this company. But he has a lot of extrinsic value on the contracts because, they're about a year and a half out. So his goal is selling aggressive covered calls on SoFi, selling some out of the money calls on NVIDIA, making the premium from that to buy back the calls on Palantir. It's just a question of if Palantir normalizes at these levels, those calls will continue to be expensive, I think the best time to buy them back for anyone who's stuck in underwater covered calls was at $60 in April. The problem is when the market tanks and you get an opportunity to get out, you kind of get greedy, right? And you're kind of just like, well, if it's at 60, it'll get to 50, it'll get to 45. You just think it's going to keep coming down. I've been guilty of that many times. And then you either end up not buying the dip or you not end up taking advantage of a position where you can get out of it for cheap, even if it still is going to cost you a bit of a debit. And then the thing runs away from you. And it happens to everybody. So I think with Palantir, if it's stuck in the triple digits, then it is going to continue having some momentum. Palantir will never go under 100 again. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think Palantir could easily go under 100, but it's not doing it, right? Like, it's not. After those earnings, I was surprised that it didn't go under 100 because the earnings were good. They just weren't enough, in my opinion, to say, hey, $300 billion for sure, that's justified. And, you would think that you would fall 20. I mean, the implied move was 20% down. We fell like 15% and then we recovered. And that was it. So I'm starting to feel the market cares a lot less about the valuation as well because it's just normalizing a range that it likes to trade Palantir, and you got a lot of liquidity. Oh, let me show you guys this. I saw this yesterday. This was crazy, bro. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. This is why Palantir trades at the multiple it trades at. Let me see if I can share this as well. Can I share this? Do you guys see this? Yes. Do you guys see it? This is a screenshot. Okay, look at this. These are the top 10 stocks by option volume. Look at the first 5. Tesla, NVIDIA, Palantir, Apple, and IBIT, which is the Bitcoin ETF. Palantir had 1.5 million options traded, 942,000 calls, 644,000 puts, 182% its daily volume. And then you have NVIDIA at 3 million. And then some other ones that I thought were unique here. You had Google, you had Amazon, AMD, you had Hoodie at 583,000. You had SMCI, you had Intel, you had HIMS at 353,000. Marathon, Coinbase, Energy Transfer. I don't know how the hell that one ended up in there, but Energy Transfer is there. And then you've got your Microsofts, your MicroStrategies, and your AMDs of the world. But the point is, Palantir's up there in terms of the top 5 stocks in the entire market that are traded via options. When you have a stock that has that much liquidity and it is able to maintain some level of a range, and, it's not like Palantir is like Tesla where they're not growing. Palantir is growing 40% year over year. Maybe that's not enough to justify $300 billion in market cap, but still, you do have a growth stock. It's not like it's not growing. And you have all these people that are buying and selling options on it. It tends to be highly liquid, and you get people that kind of don't care about the market cap. If you're selling calls on Palantir and you can get juicy premiums, you'll buy 1,000 shares at 117. You'll sell a call at 125. You'll make your premium, and you don't care. You don't really care if it's worth 300 billion, 200 billion. You just want to make sure that there's someone on the other side of that trade that's willing to either buy a call, buy a put, sell a call, or sell a put against, and you're able to make your money within the derivatives of the underlying asset. And so from that perspective, that could also be a reason, a really simple reason why Palantir maintains this multiple. Same thing for Tesla. Tesla has one of the juiciest option markets in the entire stock market, right? Because they have so many people on the back and forth of all these trades. And I think that is something that a lot of the valuation people don't understand about a momentum-based stock like a Palantir or Tesla. And you could disagree with that being a reason to own it, but the point is, if you bought Palantir at 20 and you got a lot of people that are buying it at 115, 114, going back and forth on the options, you kind of just don't care as long as it stays above that level for whatever reason it stays above, because your cost basis is set in stone and your margin of safety continues to increase. So that's what I also think is going on with Palantir. That's another thing I think is going on with Palantir. I mean, where do you see the level 2 order book on Robinhood? Okay, let me show you guys because you guys have been asking me so many times. Let me easily show you guys right here. So let's use Rocket Lab, okay? This is Rocket Lab right there. You see that yellow button near the 88? You click that. Click that yellow button. That's an arrow near the 20.88. And then boom, you get all the market data. So it's the button right near the price. You click that, and then you get access to all the level 2 market data. Then you can easily see what's going on there. The reason why we're dropping, for those that are just joining, I believe is because the market expected a trade deal coming sooner than July. Now the market's realizing it's going to take a little bit longer than July based on what the Swiss officials just said. And that's why we are seeing some red candles across the board. Also, it's a Friday. You tend to see a little bit of selling on a Friday. By the way, money market funds, for those that missed that data yesterday, 37 billion of increased assets in money market funds, 6.95 trillion. So that's lower than the 7.02 trillion 3 weeks ago. So we are seeing some net outflows. But this week, I think people realized J-Powell was not going to cut. They took some money out of the equity markets, put it into money market funds, and they're collecting their 4.5% without feeling too much pain. NVIDIA, 115.98. Okay, let's talk NVIDIA for a second. So David Sachs, who's the AI czar, he tweeted something today about NVIDIA that is bullish NVIDIA, but as of now, market doesn't care too much. So he said, to win the AI race, the AI diffusion rule must go. The Trump administration has announced its intention to repeal the Biden administration's AI diffusion rule, as the Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security confirmed in a statement yesterday. The Biden AI rule is overly complex, overly bureaucratic, and would stymie American innovation. We will be replacing it with a much simpler rule that unleashes American innovation and ensures American AI dominance. He goes on in his post to further talk about what this means, but essentially, it is definitely happening. The Biden AI diffusion rule is being reversed. Now, that is good for NVIDIA, not in the context of China, in the context of a lot of other countries, particularly in the Middle East, for them to sell their chips in. For China, they're still being used as a pawn when it comes to this trade war. But this is good for NVIDIA. This is not bad at all. This is like really good for NVIDIA because it just opens up the market even further. Stock's not reacting to it. And I think the reason, well, technically it is. The stock was at 111 on Monday. Now it's at 115, 116. So like it has moved based on this news. It's just not moving further today. But in general, I think what NVIDIA and a lot of these other Mag 7 growth names are looking for to get back to the levels that they were at back in January is progress on trade. I mean, these export controls undeniably are affecting the flow of capital and the level of uncertainty in the market. And although we're not back at, $85 on NVIDIA like we were on April 8th, we need progress on trade deals, and it can't just be with the United Kingdom. So my belief is that I don't think NVIDIA is going to pump on earnings. I think you can sell some aggressive covered calls on NVIDIA and it's not going to get out of hand. I would hope to be wrong, if it bumps up to 130, 140, 150. But I really think NVIDIA is going to have a good quarter. It's not going to be one of those quarters where the market's like, oh my God, we have to buy NVIDIA. It's going to be one of those quarters where the market's like, okay, we don't have to sell NVIDIA. And as a result, I think it'll be relatively flat between the 120 to 125 range. So I don't see a massive pump coming on NVIDIA at all. I think maybe by Q4 that's possible. But we need a lot more updates on what's going on with trade deals. And until then, I think it's going to be relatively flat. What else do we have? 4% interest on 7 trillion is like 23 billion. Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people, they love that nice 4%. Even on Robinhood, you can get 4% APY just by having cash on the platform. Oh, speaking of Robinhood, okay, so let's get to the Robinhood news. We haven't talked about the Robinhood news. So, okay, this is a big one. I wrote up a long post on it last night. I'm not going to read the entire post. I'm going to link it right here in the chat for anyone who wants to read it. But Bloomberg is reporting that Robinhood may be launching a blockchain-based platform to allow Europeans to trade U.S. assets inside of Europe without having to go through a brokerage. All right, so to dive into this, essentially what this is tokenizing stocks on the blockchain. I actually talked to a friend who's running a crypto startup right now who's kind of trying to do the same thing that Robinhood's trying to work on. And I asked him, I was like, dude, is this a big deal? Like, why is this so important? And he was like, bro, I am trying to do the same thing with my crypto startup. It's a big market. A lot of companies are going after it. It makes sense why Robinhood wants to do it. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink has talked about the idea of tokenizing everything to make it tradable. So this is not a small industry that Robinhood's going after. This would be crazy if they pull it off. Why would this happen? Well, tokenized assets can reduce reliance on traditional clearing systems, potentially cutting costs for Robinhood and its users. Adding tokenized securities and derivatives would diversify Robinhood's platform, attracting more advanced investors and increasing their competitiveness globally. And then they have a Lithuanian license for brokerage. We found that out a month ago. They just bought Bitstamp, which is the oldest crypto exchange globally, Robinhood could basically establish themselves as one of the biggest crypto leaders in Europe that has a strong regulatory presence. Again, in the EU, you need to make sure your regulations are on point. Positioning itself as a leader in compliant digital asset trading without needing to launch an actual brokerage for people to trade stocks, which would have a lot of different hurdles if Robinhood went down that route. Now, the reason that's really important is because Robinhood is launching a crypto event in June. We don't know what they're going to announce, but we do know that Vlad has talked about many times about being giddy based on the announcements that they're going to be bringing forward to everybody in France. That crypto event is going to be happening in France. And the idea that Bloomberg is reporting is that the venture will likely be launched through a partnership with a digital asset firm, according to the people that gave them the sources. Arbitrum, a blockchain that is overlaid on Ethereum, or Solana, another popular blockchain, might be the core thesis on how this plays out. Why would that be bullish? Well, just think about it. First of all, if you're a hood investor, I mean, this is supposed to be a silly little meme brokerage app that is now leading at the forefront of crypto innovation. Blockchains are used for so much like stupid stuff with meme coins. Imagine if you could buy a share of Apple on a blockchain in a tokenized way. Apple would love it because that's more liquidity. And then Robinhood would love it because the spread they would be able to collect on the trading. This is kind of what FTX was trying to do to an extent. It's just, you know, Sam Bankman-Fried was not the right person to do it. But the idea for blockchains has always been, how do we tokenize everything so that everything is tradable? Because that fundamentally diversifies the derivative markets, and it brings so much more liquidity. Because like, I want to buy Indian companies right now, but I can't, because I need to have an Indian brokerage license to be able to even have an Indian account to buy shares of Zomato, which is basically an Indian Uber Eats, if I want to get access to that market. If Zomato was traded in a tokenized way and I could just buy it on Robinhood, the tokenized version of the share of Zomato, Zomato gets more liquidity and I get access to the upside of the growing middle class in India. I mean, this is a big, big idea, and a lot of people are working on it. So I think this leak by Bloomberg is pretty peculiar. It's coming out before the crypto event in June. Robinhood declined to comment. Technically, when you decline to comment, in my opinion, that means there's some truth to what's being reported. And if they come out in June in France and they say, we are launching a platform for Europeans to be able to trade US assets on the blockchain, which I'm kind of skeptical it would come that soon. Like, I think it's going to take a couple of years, but apparently this industry is moving very quick. If that happens in another month, I mean, dude, like, I would want to have more Robinhood than I have currently right now, because like, forget the volatility in the stock, forget the cyclical nature of it. Like, this is a company that would be proving they are going for everything when it comes to financial services. And again, this is something that BlackRock's trying to do. If Robinhood ends up doing it first, or they get a meaningful way to be able to build the distribution for the platform to build it, it would be pretty crazy. It would be pretty crazy. How about the French regulators and the EU regulators? Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know if they're even going to do it. I don't know if this Bloomberg thing is true or not, but if they end up finding a way to make it happen, I think it would be crazy, dude. It would be absolutely crazy. And then this blockchain, Eddie makes a good point right here, could be the first move to tokenize private equity. So Vlad's been talking a lot about buying SpaceX, right? How do you buy SpaceX without being an accredited investor that can like go through a special purpose vehicle to know a guy who can get you into the SpaceX deal? You should be able to go onto Robinhood. SpaceX should be able to be tokenized. And there should be a way for retail to be able to just buy SpaceX as easily as they can buy the Trump meme coin. I mean, it's just one of those things, dude, where Robinhood at a $45 billion market cap with $5 billion in cash looks like a joke 5 years from now if they're able to figure that out. And the question just becomes, do you believe in Vlad and their, innovative nature to make that happen? So if they do it, I think it would be very exciting. It would be a lot of innovation, but it would be one of those things that would be very, very strong for Hood. I would like to tokenize my wife. Oh my gosh, dude. But it's crazy, right? Even freaking Larry Fink talked about this a while ago. The idea that you should be able to trade Manhattan commercial real estate on the blockchain. Like, why not? Why not should we be able to trade commercial real estate if it's worth, if there's a building in Manhattan that's worth $50 million, there's a market. Someone wants to buy shares of it. Someone wants to sell shares of it. Once you have that market, boom. If people are buying coins of freaking farts, right? If that has the ability to get some momentum, why can't you have other assets that do have value, like commercial real estate, which does have cash flows. Why can't that become tokenized? So I think that broader vision is what people are thinking about. And based on that vision, it can get very excited. Wow. I typed in Vlad blockchain on YouTube and I found a podcast from 2 days ago that he just did with a channel called Crypto in America. It has 163 views. This is what I mean, bro, with CEOs actually understanding the new media. Like, people get mad at me when I say CEOs should be doing podcasts and they should be embracing the new media. This is what I mean. Like, if Vlad is taking the time out of his day, 1 hour, to do a podcast that has 160 views, I would think that he ROI on the distribution of that message getting out there in the world actually matters. And now we have a new podcast that we can look at in terms of what he's saying right here. And that gets more people excited, dude. It matters. It really, really matters. See, I disagree. Ferris says 163 views is not worth his time. I disagree. Those 163 views matter. That content being out in the world matters. The fact that I could clip that and post it on Twitter and maybe get 163,000 views matters. Like, it's just a question of, do you embrace the new form of media? Because Bloomberg's not going to give him an hour to talk about his vision. But this random crypto podcast with 570 subscribers, I don't even know how they got in contact with this channel, will give him an hour to talk about that. And I think that's why it matters. Here's a clip right here. I just got onto it real quick. The chapter is called Robinhood Super App Vision. It's a 3-minute clip. Let's hear what he has to say right here. And then we'll keep going from there.
Market makers, which we've been rolling that out already, but that can accelerate once the acquisition closes.
I've heard you say in that vein, you want Robinhood to be the #1 go-to platform for not just equities, but options trading, crypto trading. Now that there are other crypto exchanges like Kraken getting into the equities market, how would you guys plan to differentiate yourselves from the likes of a Coinbase or a Kraken in just your strategy? And now that we're seeing more crypto native companies come to the equities and maybe even the options market in the future?
Yeah, I think the main differentiation between us and sort of like the crypto platforms is that our strategy is less based around a particular technology and more based around how can we actually serve the full wallet of our retail customer. And so
SPY goes green. SPY was down 0.5%. SPY goes green. Wow, market's getting a little bit of reversal right here. Let's see if we can build on that. But the S&P just went green.
For example, the crypto-only platforms, they kind of approach their product development as what more can we do using this crypto technology? And that pushes them to, let's do crypto for institutions, let's do more for businesses and process payments, and of course the retail arm. But I think the difference is that to some degree, if you have a great crypto retail product, that's not in and of itself a huge draw for institutions. I mean, maybe to a small degree, but the
maybe
two
more
don't
so these days.
Yeah. Whereas actually, if you have crypto and equities and a digital advice offering, a credit card, and banking for a consumer, it's actually a huge draw that you can just keep all of your money in Robinhood all in one place, and you don't have to deal with multiple platforms, moving money and moving assets between, splitting up your money. We found that having things in one place is a huge value for our customers. And when
this is the part where he talks about tokenization. Let's do a couple minutes of this, and then we'll keep going from there.
After the crypto summit in Washington, so many people have come up to me, and a lot of them are like, "Oh, we already know how to do it. We can tokenize this," or "We've been doing it for the past 10 years." But the reality of it is, it's not actually available in the U.S., and we run the risk of being left behind if we don't figure out the story there. Right now, basically everything in crypto besides meme coins, and this is a little bit of a generalization, but it's not far from the truth. In the US, everything but meme coins is either illegal or in like a very gray area, a shaky gray area. So that's why we need the security token legislation to come very soon.
You had a recent op-ed, actually, Vlad. You described a coming revolution in investing driven by tokenization and blockchain. You just mentioned after the crypto summit, you guys have been sort of known as promoting the tokenization side of crypto. What role do you see Robinhood playing in accelerating that shift? And like, how close are we to seeing tokenized equities or private markets opening every day to U.S. investors? I know this is something that you've talked about previously. We're talking about 24/7 trading now, not just 24/5.
Yeah, I think there's for the tokenization of securities, this is something that lawmakers are getting behind, and the administration generally seems supportive of it. There's obviously going to be details, and there's a lot of stakeholders in the U.S., including the established financial services companies that might not be as big fans of the idea, but I think the people want it, and there's obvious long-term benefits. So the U.S. will get there. My hope is that we get legislation before August. And if that happens, that's great. And that's a big part of it. The second thing is accredited investor rules. So basically, accredited investor rules prevent retail from investing in public companies unless they meet certain income or net worth requirements, which effectively shut out 80% of the investing public. And these laws were created back when there was a real problem getting information about different assets and different companies. This was like pre-internet, so there wasn't a lot of information out there. The conditions under which those rules made sense no longer exist. You have lots of information out there. You have AI, and you also have things like meme coins, which we were discussing earlier, where, you know, if you're a retail investor, you can access meme coins freely, and there's hundreds of thousands of them created every single week. So it makes even less sense in that context to have such restrictions on retail investors investing in private companies. So there is momentum behind that as well. And it's one of the things we're most interested in and working towards. And
dude, they're going for it. I think they're going for it. I on Robinhood Weekly, like 3 weeks ago, I was telling Tanner and Roy, I don't think they're going to be able to tokenize assets for like the next 2 years. It looks like my time frame is completely off. I really thought it was going to take time. By the way, the S&P 500 going red, basically flat right here. Tesla's still holding 300. Can't be too upset about that. 301 right here on Tesla. It looks like this is happening in a couple months, bro. This is not going to take a couple years. I mean, if he's doing all these podcasts, he's writing these op-eds, he's putting out this information. You got Trump's White House that's probably going to deregulate the crap out of crypto, given that Trump himself has launched the meme coin. I mean, it makes sense why Robinhood donated $2 million to Trump. They probably are seeing that the writing on the wall is that tokenized assets of anything are going to become the future. That's theoretically a threat to Schwab and Fidelity, right? I mean, like, if you can buy Apple on a blockchain, why do you need to buy Apple on your Schwab account? Not saying that that's going to, get a lot of investors to leave Schwab, but the point is, it is another way to think of decentralized finance. And if Robinhood is one of the core elements that is in the center of being able to allow people to access liquidity across the world for all these assets, the asset holders would love it. If you're a startup founder and you want to raise some money, you would love being able to have people believe in your vision and get the distribution through a platform like Robinhood. And then B, Robinhood barely makes any money on equities. Like, when you buy a stock, Robinhood makes like less than, like, I think they make like 2 cents every time you do it, less than 2 cents. Like, it's a very small take rate. Options, they make like 47 cents, but on equities, it's nothing. On crypto, they make like 67 cents. If they can even get 10% of their crypto take rate on these new tokenized assets on some new blockchain they create, whether it's on Solana, Ethereum, etc., they would be making a lot more money of you buying the tokenized version of Apple versus you buying Apple stock. So, as Brittany says right here, we're really early, bro. We are really, really freaking early. Again, I don't know if this is going to happen anytime soon. I don't know if the June event is going to be the event where they announce it. But you've got Robinhood Strategies. You've got Robinhood Cortex, their AI stuff. You got Robinhood Banking, which is going to be big, in my opinion, dude. I think a lot of people are going to love the user experience of having everything inside of one app, and Robinhood Banking is going to explode with net deposits. Then you've got Robinhood Crypto, which right now only makes money when you buy and sell Bitcoin. There's so many other ways they can diversify into institutional streams of ownership. And then you potentially have this tokenized blockchain platform that allows people to buy and sell potentially shares of SpaceX, which, a market for that I think would be crazy. And Vlad is correct about this. The fact that you can buy Fartcoin, but you can't buy a share of SpaceX is insane. When SpaceX is way safer, even if people think it's overvalued on the private markets, than freaking Fartcoin. So I think that vision in and of itself makes a lot of sense. And then you got a CEO who's actually going on independent podcasts, regardless of the number of subscribers they have, willing to speak about his vision. Because I'll tell you what, I'm about to clip what he just said, because he actually took the time to make the content, and that's good content for me because I cover the company. I'm going to put it on Twitter. That's going to get some more distribution. I mean, like, it's just the name of the game when you're a CEO who has a retail audience that is willing to put out content about your company. If you can make the content, and an hour out of his day is not that crazy for the distribution that he's going to get on his message. This is why I'm saying this stuff matters, dude. It's the new form of how people access information and content. Rumble right here is up 30%. This one is green on the day. Rumble, let's pull up their earnings. I didn't even look at them last night, but it looks like they had a nice beat on the top and the bottom, and that's what's helping them. Does anyone use Rumble, bro? Does anyone freaking use this thing? I don't. I never fully understood Rumble. I know it's like the free speech version of YouTube or something. All right, Rumble, 34% year-over-year revenue growth, 23.7 million. Rumble Cloud secured a contract with the government of El Salvador. and they significantly improved their MAU retention compared to 2022 midterm elections. Revenue was 23 million. MAUs were 59 million. That's down from 68 million in Q4. So MAUs going down quarter over quarter. Average revenue per user is 34 cents. That's down 13%. They lost 2.7 million and they have 318 million in cash. Why would anyone buy this stock? What is this one? I mean, people talk about Palantir as a meme stock. I mean, dude, 13 cents a user. They get come on, bro. This is 34 cents a user, 23 million in revenue. This is this, if anything, I think is a bit more meme-ish. It has a $4 billion market cap. They do $80 million of revenue. And I know Palantir's valuation is up there as well, but you got Palantir that's actually growing and that's kind of important in the world. Rumble is videos around politics on a crappy interface. I've just never understood the Rumble thesis ever. Never understood it. And Peter Thiel pumped this thing up. Dude, Peter Thiel invested $500 million in this thing back when it was a SPAC. I think he's out of it, so he's made his money. But I don't know, dude. For a tech product, I just don't know who would use Rumble over YouTube unless you genuinely hate YouTube, which is fine. I mean, I know people don't love the censorship on YouTube, but I don't think the censorship is to such a degree that, or if it is to such a degree, you got to be watching some pretty fringe content if it's really not allowed on YouTube that you got to go to Rumble to watch that content. YouTube's not falling off anytime soon. Now, YouTube was doing some ridiculous censoring back in 2022. I remember that. That's when Rumble really started gaining some momentum. So I agree. YouTube's not perfect. And back in COVID, they had their issues, right? 100% agree. But the product experience on Rumble is just it's not exciting, bro. So for people to give up that good of a product experience to go to Rumble, it means they've really got to believe that, the free speech element of YouTube is that bad. Rumble, yeah, Doug says Rumble is similar to X. I agree. Rumble is similar to X. It's just that X now has Elon, where you're allowed to say what you want to say. But X is also not a video platform, in my opinion. X is, competing with YouTube is a different level. The reason X is differentiated is because it's real-time news updates immediately. So, for example, I go on X right now. Boom, here's your update. China's Xi Jinping met with Venezuela's president in Moscow. Interesting. So CCTV, Chinese state media, is reporting that China's president met with Venezuela's president in Moscow. We do know that Xi Jinping was in Moscow on Monday to meet with Putin to celebrate Victory Day. So looks like he met with the Venezuelan president as well. X, once they have video, will eat Rumble. I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, look, X has 600 million people. Rumble has about 59 million. X has a highly engaged user base, in my opinion, because it's real-time updates that you're there constantly to try to get access to. Most of the influential people that are tweeting about tech, business, finance, etc., they're on X. Sports is huge on X. It's so funny because sometimes Shams, who's the big sports guy on ESPN, he'll report something and I'll comment underneath it because I'm dude, that's actually crazy. And it's sports Twitter and stock Twitter will collide. When Anthony Davis was traded to the Dallas Mavericks, everyone from every sector of the platform was commenting under that post, which is the cool part about X, right? You have all these different communities that can interact with each other. So if X were to add video and do it the right way, I think they could seriously compete with YouTube, or at least definitely compete with Rumble. But YouTube's algorithm is different, bro. Someone in the chat said, so I was on the Dumb Money podcast yesterday, and someone said they got recommended the Dumb Money TV podcast in their feed. They've never heard of those guys before, but they watch me every day. And apparently YouTube figured out that Amit was on the Dumb Money podcast. And this user that happens to watch Amit would be interested in the Dumb Money podcast because Amit made an appearance on it. I mean, their algorithm is crack. Their algorithm is legit crack. And it's very, very hard for YouTube to, or for anyone to compete with that algorithm on YouTube. So even though Google's down for the year, that algorithm is just incredible, and it creates more distribution, and it gets people like me to keep creating on the platform, because for me, I care about having a bigger audience, and to get a bigger audience, you have to have an algorithm that can recommend you to more people. And that's another thing that I think Rumble, probably doesn't do as well. Speaking of that podcast, this was me on Dumb Money yesterday. I was giving Chris Camillo his flowers for being quote unquote late to Palantir. Here's a clip from that yesterday. Person, maybe there's a handful of them that has been saying it's going to keep going higher and hasn't been as cautious as I've been is you. And you just said, you know what, forget everything, forget the valuation. I saw the video that all three of you did, and Dave and Jordan were pushing back as they should have on the valuation. And you were like, nope, this is just, it is what it is. It's balanced.
Well, I was talking to Chris about this yesterday because I was one of the people that thought the valuation was nuts. But I think what makes sense about it is that there's no public market for companies like this yet.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like your only outlet to be able to invest in.
I think that's also a good point. I was telling Steve about that yesterday. Like, Palantir's valuation is up there. Yes, 100%. But there really is no market for a pure play AI SaaS company that is accelerating 50% in government and commercial and is in the age of harnessing large language models. Like, you look at a lot of other SaaS names that are out there, there's not a pure play like Palantir that interacts with all those intersections. And that is why it's kind of a unicorn. It's a one of one. And that, to an extent, can explain the valuation, given there's just not a market for how to value a company that does something like that.
AI.
Let me tell you something. The most common comment that I got sent to me, I think even on that video, were Palantir investors that were ripping on me because I was so late to the show.
Yep.
They thought me buying Palantir, I think I actually started buying it at 28 and then to 33 or 34, like between the upper 20s to low 30s. And they thought that I was so late.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was not just buying Palantir, I was layering in massive call options on Palantir at that price. And they were like, this is insane. This is toppy. This is like, you missed the ride, man. We've been on this ride for 8. I'm like, and I kept explaining to them, I was like, no. I've been trading NVIDIA while you were trading. Like, I've been doing fine. Like, my cost of capital is extraordinarily high. But like, now is when I want to play Palantir because I see the next lift happening as we get a broadening of awareness of what's happening at Palantir beyond the Omits and the small circles of the believers. It's about to transfer to a broader a world of retail investors and institutional capital markets who have always been skeptical of Palantir because of their CEO. But at a certain point, you can't be skeptical anymore. And I saw them like crossing over, right?
We did our podcast 2 weeks before they got included in the S&P 500.
Yeah. And I was just looking back at our channel. The first time we even mentioned Palantir, we'd been avoiding it because it was just too much to wrap our heads around. And I believe at the time, like, it was just hard to get. And watching your channel is actually one of the things that got me thinking more about it. But it was 7 months ago that we did our first video called Why Palantir is Our New Favorite AI Stock.
Yep.
And really, it could have just been stock because we just wanted to put AI in the title.
No, but I just really want to commend you, Chris, because there's a reason you are who you are. And it is, at the time, I'm the guy who's the most bullish on this thing, I think, on the internet. And I'm listening to you saying, no problem, $80 billion market cap, what's the issue? Just buy it. And I wish I had listened to you more deeply because I would have gone in even heavier, but my valuation part of the brain couldn't really grasp what you were saying. But it's why you made a career the way you made your career on social arbitrage.
No, I still have a decent Palantir position, but obviously all those options are cashed out. I even cashed out a chunk of my equity. I have a good, decent position in Palantir, but I don't really watch it anymore day to day. It's not like my area of focus. The reason why is the dissemination of information and knowledge and acceptance of the type of company that.
Yes, I was glazing. I don't care. I was acting like Lutnick with Trump, but still, Chris deserves his credit here.
Palantir is now widely accepted in the market. Okay, generally that's always an exit point for me. But I still believe that there's a much longer term storyline here. It could take years and years and years to play out. So like, again, my cost of capital is high, so I don't have a huge position in Palantir anymore, but it's reasonable. And I still think the company has a bright decade ahead of it.
So, I mean, it's a good point, right? He bought Tesla, or he bought Palantir at 25. Palantir's now at 120. The arbitrage of alpha in terms of information has now obviously been disseminated towards the masses. Palantir, I was showing you guys, was in the top 5 traded stocks in terms of option volumes every single day, with Tesla, Nvidia, IBIT, and Apple. So people know about it now. Like, the alpha that was there years ago is not the same alpha. But now I think a lot of people are just saying, hey, can we keep what we've got? Can we keep triple digits? A lot of people are sitting on a lot of gains. They don't want to sell because they want to see this thing play out over the next decade. Can we keep it without seeing a 50, 60% drawdown? And eventually time will tell. But so far, it's been about 2 weeks now holding triple digits. This is the longest we've held triple digits. In February, we held it for like 3 days and then it was done. And then we were back down below 100. So this is the longest we've held it. And hopefully the trade volatility is not as aggressive and we can continue to hold triple digits on Palantir. Tesla below 300. So Tesla still up 5% of the day. Tesla not holding 300 right now. Robinhood as well, not holding 55. That's at 54.50. Great day for covered calls. I mean, those are kind of going the right way. Nvidia right here tried to get above 117, now back at 116.40. It is up from 115. And then you have the broader S&P that is red, but it's not as red as it was before, down about 0.14%. All right, cool. Well, there we go. I think that's it. I think that's it for the day. I think we are done, folks. I have to put in the Boston meetup form. Give me a second. Let me pull that up. Let's pull that here. Boston, we're doing it May 24th. If you're in the region, I don't know how many of you are in Boston, but whether it's 5 of you, 10 of you, 50 of you, 100 of you, I am coming through. And we will do a meetup. Yes, we'll have the market close, as always. It's just the end of the market open right now. But we'll be back as always for the market close. Michelle says, I'm currently making cupcakes that look like puppies. Michelle's birthday is tomorrow, so I hope you're making some cupcakes for yourself as well. May 10th. Everyone can wish Michelle. I forgot. It's Saturday, so we're not going to be live. But a happy pre-birthday to Michelle. She is an awesome person. She's in Houston. She met the love of her life in my chat named Ray. Literally, these guys got married based on meeting each other in the chat. It's like the craziest story ever, but super cool. Hopefully I get to meet both of them and give them a wedding gift in Houston eventually when I go there. But shout out to Michelle, and it is going to be your birthday pretty soon. Dude, speaking of birthdays, okay, so my dad, this was hilarious. I was getting these freaking messages while we were doing the market open. So my dad's turning 64, okay, on June 13th. And my mom made a 64th birthday celebration, like invitation graphic, essentially, that she's going to send out to some family to come over for dinner, right? She sends it in the group chat. And my dad says, you don't need to put out an invitation. I don't need people to know what my age is. And my mom's like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? And she's like, too late. And he's like, you should have really discussed this before you send it out. It's very bad. I'm just like, I don't like that. I texted, I was like, we all get old. I'm going to be 28 soon. I was like, how about we do 46 instead of 64 instead? And my dad's like, I hate you guys. It's so funny, dude. It's like, dude, we all get older. We all get older. It all happens. Shout out to Kevin. His birthday is June 13th as well. I love it. We got another Gemini right here. So my dad's getting a bit conscious of his age now. And I get it. You're getting older and stuff, but we all get older, bro. I'll be 28. I'll be 2 years away from 30. I mean, like, it's all like I've always felt the taboo nature of like your age is kind of stupid, because I get it. As you get older, you kind of like, you fountain of youth and all that stuff people don't want to say. But like, we're all gonna get older. It's all gonna happen. And then guess what? We're all gonna die too. That part's happening, unless freaking Brian Johnson figures out a way for us to keep living forever, or maybe AIs. But like, it's inevitable. So you can either age gracefully or you can age with fear and trepidation. And, I'm not that afraid of turning 28. It's like, all right, I'll be 28. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's kind of the beauty of life, right? That we're getting closer to the end. And so it makes you want to value the moments you have before you get to the end, because the end is inevitable. From my understanding, I don't think anyone has escaped that part of the journey of life. So you got to enjoy it in the meantime. You got to enjoy it in the meantime. Thank you, everybody, for saying happy birthday to Michelle. She's been a big part of the channel, been here for basically a couple years now. Literally fell in love with somebody from my channel. So Happy birthday to Michelle. Hopefully you have a great, great birthday on May 10th tomorrow. Where's the S&P right here? S&P at 564. Okay, we are down about 0.08%, basically flat right here on the day. Okay, so hold up. Give me a second. Let me pull up this Boston meetup form. I got to put this out for everybody. So let me just adjust this real quick. So it's going to have your name. And then where did you find me from? Because I'd like to know if people found me from YouTube or X. And then your email. That's also something that I need from people. Your email. Okay, so Boston meetup. Here it is. Let me put this right here in the chat. If you are in Boston, May 24th, that's what it's looking like. It'll be a Saturday. That will be the 4th official meetup of 2025. All right, there you go. There's the form. There you go. But yeah, dude, we all get older and then we all die. It is what it is. You gotta enjoy the process to be able to get there as well. And I know a lot of you guys have been finding me recently. Alex had found me from Sam Solid. A bunch of you guys are new to the channel as well. I appreciate everyone that's new here and everyone that's been enjoying the content. But you know, this is the nature of life. I mean, the fact that I even get to be able to create this content every day is something I enjoy, regardless of getting older, meeting new people, getting new people to be part of the community. All of that is just really cool. That's why moments like the Bloomberg thing this week matter, right? Like it's really special, and you kind of take that moment with some grace and humility, and you know that, you know, if I live to be 80, 90 years old, I'll be able to look at that first Bloomberg appearance I made and be like, that was a good day. That was a cool day. And it was a really good day because other people genuinely were happy for that part of my life outside of just my own, personal desires to have done that. Other people actually cared about being happy for someone else achieving something in their life. So you got to enjoy these moments. You got to enjoy these moments and age gracefully. And my dad tends to be someone who's a little bit more indecisive, tends to be a little bit more fearful. Like my mom is just like, fuck it, let's do it. Let's take the risk. Let's figure it out. My dad tends to be a lot more hesitant to easily take risks and things like that, right? So I can tell why he's a bit more afraid. Whereas my mom, when my mom turned 50, we threw a crazy party for her. She wanted, this was like 5 years ago. This was 2019. We rented out some big hall in New Jersey. We invited all of her coworkers over the past 30 years inside the school she worked at, and she enjoyed it. She had zero hesitation of being 50 years old, you know? She embraced it. And I kind of try to take that same mentality. It's like, this is one thing no one can escape. Like, you can't get younger. So whining about the process of being in your 30s or 40s or 50s, like, what matters is, are you enjoying life? Are you doing something? And then are you gracefully getting ready to the point where you understand inevitably it's going to be over? But are you looking back on life with the humility and happiness that you took advantage of the one opportunity you had, you know? Whether it's 64, 46, 28, 33, like, it's life. It happens. And you got to be able to embrace it. What about chirotherapy? Okay, so there's probably going to be, like, my kids' are probably going to live to like 150, right? I don't think I'm going to live to 150, but I think, the next generation's kids, AI will be powerful enough to probably make sure these guys have a much better chance of living to be a lot older. But, here's the other thing. Like, I am so grateful that I was born in the age of the internet, because I could have been born when we didn't have airplanes. I could have been born when, we didn't have the calculator. All of us, if you're alive right now, are living through the age of the internet, and now we got AI. We're not going to be able to live, most likely all of us, in the age of you take one pill and you can, like, cure every single problem that you have, and then you live for an extra 20 years. Like, that's probably coming. It's probably a couple centuries from now, but it's not now right now, as long as we don't nuke each other to death. But we all get to be grateful for living in the age of the internet, right? So it's like, the fact that we get to grow up with ChatGPT and like access to public markets through an app like Robinhood, where you can literally change your financial situation by pressing a button. I mean, like, that didn't exist 30 years ago. And in 300 years, it's going to be even crazier than that. We're not going to be able to live through that, but at least we are not living in a world where we haven't invented cars yet, because that could have happened as well, right? So every generation feels like that. That's true. I'm just saying, in our generation, whether you're millennial, Gen Z, or baby boomer, you are experiencing a pretty aggressive shift in technology, even if you're growing up with the iPad versus if you were 45 when the iPad came out. You got to experience it, which is pretty freaking cool. Pretty freaking cool, at least to me. That's how they probably felt when they invented electricity. Yeah, dude. And like our kids are going to grow up where AI is synonymous with everything. For us, we're just trying to figure out how the hell do we use this AI thing. But it's just kind of crazy to be alive in this. So the point of what I'm trying to say is like, you can either have resentment that you're not going to be alive in a world where people are going to be living to 300 years old, or you can have gratitude to be alive in a world in which you can look up something and in 300 seconds get an answer and then make a decision that changes your life because of AI, right? Just about gratitude versus resentment about the current state of where you live, how you live, and what technology you get to access for being alive right now. It's crazy to be alive. Yes, that's my quote. No, it is though, right? It's crazy to be. Dude, I wake up every day. It's like, this is crazy. Like, we're alive, bro. Like, we're like living on Earth. You know, we don't have flying cars yet, like the Jetsons. Hopefully, eventually we do. But we are alive. Arthur says there's nothing good about getting old. Look, I am very sympathetic to that. I'm getting older. I'm feeling, you know, back, neck pains, all that stuff. Like, I get it. Like, I understand. And I'm only 28, right? So I understand that as you get older, I definitely don't have the same energy, even though I'm energetic every day. I know you guys say that, but I don't have the same energy I had when I was 18. Like, perfect example. When I was 18, I literally could stay up till 6 a.m. and go to school the next morning. No issue. Now, if I stay up till 6 a.m. and try to do a market open, I'm done, bro. There's no way I'm getting through that market open. Like, I need at least 3 to 4 hours of sleep because I'm just going to be a mess. So, like, obviously things change for everybody. But my point is, the beautiful thing about getting older is that you get to embrace the finite time you have in life. I guess the thing I'm trying to say is you are more conscious of the fact that the inevitable end is near. And so although, you know, there are some things physically that are not the best about getting older, the good thing is you have the wisdom to know, hey, I'm getting older and I'm getting closer to the end. So maybe I should do something with my life before I get to the end so I feel good about the life that I lived. I feel like that's, you know, one way to think of it. Okay, you guys are saying doing a poll on the age. So let's do a poll right here. You don't have to answer, but if you want to answer, you can. How old are you? Let's do, okay, so 20 to 30. Then we'll do 30 to 40. Then we'll do 40 to 50. And then we'll do 50 plus. I think that's reasonable. I don't think anyone is here that's under 20, so that should be fair. I could also see this in my YouTube analytics, so let me actually pull up my, dude, I've not checked my YouTube analytics in so long. Like, I just feel like I don't have time to check. I just like freaking, I make the content and then that's it. And I go to sleep. I've not really deep dived into the demographics of any of this stuff. Like, Tanner was telling me the other day, he was like, do you have mid-roll ads on your videos? Like, what the fuck is a mid-roll ad? It was like a mid-roll ad. He's like, oh, you can put ads in the middle. I was like, you can choose where you want to put the ads on the videos? What? It's like, I thought YouTube just puts them anywhere. So apparently you can do mid-roll ads, but I don't think I have them because I never see anyone really complain when Tesla's from 299 to 300 and we're ringing the bell. No one's ever like, oh, the ads came before, you know, I got to see a ring the bell. So I don't think we have mid-roll ads. I think it's in the beginning and maybe at the end. But I never see people really complain in the middle of the stream that like an ad pops up and they're annoyed. So I don't know how to fix that on YouTube, but I don't want to fix that because that would be kind of annoying in the middle of the stream. Okay, let me go to my analytics. Let me go to the demographics, trends, audience. Let's see if it's consistent with what you guys are saying in the chat. Okay, give it a second. Let me pull it up and then we'll see. Okay, on the chat right here, 20 to 30 is 21%. 30 to 40 is 34%. 40 to 50 is 26%. 50 plus is 19%. So 30 to 40 has the majority of the investing base. And in 2 years, I will be joining the 30 to 40s. Okay, let me see what my YouTube analytics say. I used to obsess over this back in 2021, 2022. I was like so nitpicky. Now I just like, I genuinely have not looked at this in so long because I just like, I don't know. I just make the content and that's it. Okay. So, in terms of, well, let me show you guys this right here. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. Okay. So let's show this. Let's show this. Pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. So, 18 to 24 is 5%. 25 to 34 is 27%. 35 to 44, 31. Basically, what you guys wrote right here, 30 to 40 is 34%. 45 to 54 is 20%. And then 55 to 64 is 10%. So the majority of people here are 30 to 55. I would say that's the majority. And that's what we got. How old are you? I'm 27. I'm 27. I'll be 28 in a couple months. So there you go. There you go. And again, it makes sense, right? Older people tend to have a bit more money to invest. So that's like, they would be interested in content that's around investing. In terms of the demographics right here, so this is the countries that watch the channel the most. So obviously the United States is up there first. United States is first. Then you have Canada. Then you have the UK. Then you have Germany. Then you have Singapore. A lot of you guys in Singapore. Then you have Sweden, Netherlands, Australia. We got India, Denmark, Portugal, Israel, Belgium, Finland, Malaysia, Spain, Norway, Japan, France, Hong Kong, Switzerland, Italy, Poland, Taiwan, UAE, Mexico, Thailand, Romania, Ireland. I love Ireland. I love Ireland. And next time I go to Ireland, I'm going to make sure that, I can proceed to make sure. You guys know what I'm going to say. You guys know what I'm going to make sure that when I get to Ireland, that my money is doubling, baby. That's what I'm going to make sure I do. New Zealand, Austria, Greece, South Africa, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and then you got all these countries at the bottom. So the top 5 are the US, Canada, United Kingdom, Germany, and Singapore. That's what we got. That's what we got. All right. Munya said, I left 15 minutes ago and Amit was saying goodbye. This is like becoming a thing, bro. Every day I'm ready to go. Like even yesterday, I said goodbye. We were on for another 40 minutes on the market close. I don't even know what we ended up talking about. But we ended up talking about something. Is Amit the youngest CEO ever? Zucks is actually the youngest person to ever become a billionaire, I think. Zucks was freaking 23 when he became a billionaire. So Zucks has it when it comes to the title for the youngest person to really make a ton of money. It was Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. All right, cool. That's it. We're done for the day. We'll be back at 3:45. Again, happy birthday to Michelle. My dad will be getting older in about a month. I'll be getting older in a couple months. We all get older. It is what it is. It happens. It's life. You have to embrace the journey of life. And quite frankly, as much as people want immortality, I think living forever would make the moments of life that matter not as consequential, right? The fact that it's all going to be over one day, and the fact that we have to live and be conscious of the fact that it's all going to be over. Like most animals, they're not conscious of the fact that there's going to be an end to their life, that they're going to die. And then eventually, they realize that it's over. But humans are really unique. We have the consciousness to conceptualize what it means for the end of our life and then to try to make something of purpose of the finite amount of time that we have. And I guess that's what makes this, this entire journey special. Word of the day is twaddle.
Twaddle.
Silly, tedious talk or writing. I already know what you guys are going to say. Amit twaddles every day. My inbox and feed are overflowing with marketing twaddle, selling shoddy products as boutique. First-hand experience taught him more than all the twaddle peddled by self-proclaimed business gurus. Okay, this is word. I think I'm not going to forget this word, twaddle. I like this word. A, it has to do with talking, so I like it. B, it's a nice little, it rolls off the tongue, twaddle. I forget every word of the day. Like, what was yesterday's word of the day? Who remembers? I don't remember. I forget the word of the day every single day. I never actually internalized what the word of the day was. But this one, I think I'll remember. I cannot tell you what the past 5 word of the days were. I just can't. They go in one ear, out the other. But this one, I think I'll remember. Warrior says hi from Bulgaria. Hello to you, sir. Thank you for being here. And thank you for watching all the way from Bulgaria. Amit, the CEO of Twaddle. All right, that's how we ended. Amit, the CEO of Twaddle. What was yesterday's word of the day? Does anyone remember? I think it leaves your guys' heads as well. We should actually have a list of the word of the day. I should actually have a document where we look at it. I should be using them in these streams. I should be looking at them and finding ways I could use them. But I completely forget them every single day. The word of the day for the past 5 years was pounder. That is fair. That is also very fair. All right, cool. That's it. I'm out. I'll be back at 3:45. We're ending out the markets for this week. S&P 500 down about 0.08%, basically flat on the day. You got Tessie just below 300 at 299, Pouncer at 117, Robinhood at 54.40, and again, the S&P 500 right here at 54.65, down about 0.07%. Pouncer 117.40 on the day. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back 3:45. Steve will likely make an appearance on the market close. We'll get his thoughts on the markets. And then we'll be done for today. The Boston Forum, again, I'll put it in the chat right here. If you are in Boston, it looks like May 24th. That's what we're doing it for the meetup, fourth meetup of the year. So there's that forum. And yeah, we will do Boston later this month. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye, everyone. See you guys at 3:45 on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.